Ahoy, mateys! Welcome to the GameBuoy.org video game podcast, your twice monthly port of call for gaming news and views that maybe aren't on your radar, but most definitely should be. I'm your host, Captain Spike 2099, and with me, as always, is first mate Slaggy McWaggy 2.
Actually, it's Slaggy McWaggy 2 and Knuckles with lock-on technology. Thank you very much.
Welcome once again, each and every one of our lovely and beautiful listener, to another episode of the GameBuoy.org video game podcast.
GameBuoy.org video game podcast.
Today is March 1st, 2026, and this is a Game Buoy Podcast, episode 190, Big News Week.
Did you say Big Nudes Week?
No, I didn't. This week, we're going to take a little diversion from our plans and talk a little bit, or maybe a lot bit, about some of the big news that's come up this week. For those of you who have been looking forward to our discussion on interior design as a part of game design, I assure you we are likewise eager to record that episode. But, did you hear Xbox maybe took a mortal blow this week?
Finish him!
So yeah, despite something of technically a lean show roll this week, we're likely to have a few impromptu mini discussions this week. Therefore, we will not be doing our proper discussion topic as planned. Hopefully, after we went jumbo-sized for 2 weeks in a row, I'm really hoping we can bring this one in at a reasonable pace, but I'm not foolish enough to make any promises.
I can take a hint.
I would, in a little bit more serious of a note, also be remiss not to mention that today's episode is dedicated to the memory of Shutaro Ida, whom passed away recently. News actually broke online about Ida-san's passing as we were wrapping the recording of our intro to the last episode, and at that time we sort of had a sidebar and decided we'd rather dedicate this episode to him rather than hastily tack something onto that episode. Ida-san was a major contributor to the DS-era Castlevania games. He contributed design work to Iga's spiritual successor, Bloodstained, as well as the newest iteration in the series, The Scarlet Engagement, about which Igarashi-san said, "The game he was working on, Bloodstained, The Scarlet Engagement, is currently in development. It is a precious work imbued with his spirit. We will carry on his vision and see it through to completion, so he won't be disappointed. We ask for your continued support and encouragement now more than ever. Our thoughts are with his family, and we pray for his eternal rest." Slaggy will detail his career and some of his achievements/impacts momentarily, but for the moment, we likewise wanted to dedicate this episode to him and state that our hearts and thoughts go out to his loved ones in this difficult time.
Indeed.
So that's what we have on deck here today. But before we get into that, let's get started, relax, and talk about some games news. Slaggy, what is the way that we rhyme?
Daika March 2001. As Captain Spike said, we would like to honor the legacy of Shutaro Ida-san, who passed away at the age of 52, so young. He joined Konami in 1996. He, of course, was well known for his work on Castlevania, but he also did some work on Metal Gear Solid 5, both of them. And then after that, of course, he joined Igarashi-san at Art Play, where they worked on Bloodstained. And we're going to link you to a GamesIndustry.biz article, and it just does a really good job of summarizing both his achievements as well as some very heartfelt words from Igarashi-san himself, and about how passionate he was, how supportive he was, and just what the impact he had on the games that they worked on together. So thank you for your contributions to the gaming industry, Ida-san, and the obligatory fuck cancer.
Indeed. All right, so we actually here now have a whopper, and in fact, this would have been our lead story had we not had a dedication to do this week. To that end, though, Slaggy, that means this story falls to me and not you, so you get to save your breath. This is word of a major bomb that has gone off at Microsoft's gaming division. basically amid what is looking to be uh, charitably the most challenging generation the Xbox platform has had yet. We have now seen longtime head of Xbox Phil Spencer announce his retirement. But hold on, because if that were all we were talking about, we wouldn't all be so worried here. The thing is, in addition, his longtime protege, Sarah Bond, about whom we've talked here on the show many times over the years, she had long been seen as his successor to be, she announced that she's leaving Microsoft altogether. So already now, a lot of us are like, oh, uh-oh. Except that's not even the end of this part of the story. And I actually have a few different pieces of this story I want to add before we really get into it. But the last piece of the big part of the story is the new head of Xbox is going to be Asha Sharma, whom has previously been the president of Microsoft's core AI product. Yeah. This isn't good. Broadly, the expectation is that Sharma is also going to continue being involved with Microsoft's AI products. It has a lot of us very concerned. And so I guess what is your immediate response to that big news before we get to sort of the smaller pieces of it?
I mean, there's a lot to say. So I don't, as far as like Sarah Bond leaving, the fact that she's leaving at the same time means that she's probably seen the writing on the wall, and all those shitty like quote unquote games we've been seeing made by Gen AI. Can't wait for the next Microsoft Xbox experience to basically just be that.
Yeah, well, so the second sort of piece here then to this news story, and I apologize, but the second two pieces of this news story are really us noting different analysts' perspectives and opinions. The first one here, and this comes to us courtesy of Games Beat. And unfortunately, this is behind a paywall, but we will still share the link over at GameBuoy.org.
GameBuoy.org.
Where we discuss where we link all of the articles that we discuss here on the show. Obviously, our show could not be done without the hard work of contributors to websites like GamesBeat. The co-founder of the Xbox brand, this is Seamus Blackley, whom we have talked about in the past. He indicated that he feels that the Microsoft Games division could well be sunset in favor of the AI division. And he does not think it's likely that the Xbox brand is going to be restored under the coming regime, as, they're kind of already sort of promising. Do you have any opinion on that, on the Xbox co-founder saying that he's worried?
I feel like he would have some pretty good insight into it, in terms of hardware, I think that for sure. I can't see them completely eliminating Xbox as a brand, but again, it's probably just going to be like shitty AI stuff, or, I could still see them like, keeping Activision and stuff, but also you never know.
Yeah. Well, and then to that end, the other analyst that I want to talk about here is Michael Pachter. Pachter is infamous in gaming circles. He is a advisor at Wedbush Securities. And we've talked about Pachter here on the show ourselves many times because, while the joke meme is often, whatever Pachter says, do the opposite. That's not actually literally true. In fact, Pachter had years ago identified Game Pass as a really strong pillar of the Xbox brand, and back in the day was basically saying that if, Microsoft managed it well, it could be, their ticket to the top. Unfortunately, He has now sort of changed his tune. He thinks the console is dead. The specific quote is, "I think the console is dead. I think they've already blown it with the console by embracing Game Pass." And then he explained that he feels Game Pass is vastly overpriced at the, basically $30 a month pricing. And he goes on to note that, back when it was $10 a month, all you can eat, that it was a really great service or really great value or whatever. But now that, you can buy multiple games per year for the annual purchase cost of Game Pass, it's no longer such a good deal. And he basically feels that they have counterintuitively trained their consumer base to kind of not buy games, but also now not to be spending money on Game Pass. I will say there's a certain amount of humor to that, because for me, that does resonate. I canceled my Game Pass because of the BDS boycott. But once I realized and was like, wow, that's a lot of money, and I was not playing that much Game Pass, I'm not really inclined to resub should that situation resolve. And in fact, I've talked on the show over the last few months, it's really sort of changed how I'm really sort of trying to stay on top of my game subscriptions now, because it's like, if I'm not playing that, I don't got to be paying that. Okay. Anyway, all of this sort of to say, even the people who in the past had thought Xbox was on the right track, that they were growing the market, that they were doing everything right, basically everybody seems to agree that what we witnessed happen to the Xbox leadership last week likely marks, if not the end, then at least the beginning of the end. I don't know. I guess if I were to put it in those types of terms, I would say that the beginning of the end was really the poor launch reception to the Xbox One platform. But all of that,
slow death,
right? All of that trying to sort of put into context, Slaggy. I guess I'd like to hear, and I know you've already given a fair bit of your thoughts, but now I'd like to hear sort of your mature thoughts, taking the Pact's thoughts into consideration, and Seamus Blackley's thoughts into consideration. Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of questioning the future already. I think that this is just further cementing that, honestly, that, sure, they may end up putting out although, I mean, I almost wonder now if they're even going to put out like a Xbox branded PC. Like, that was the kind of big rumor that was, going around about what next gen Xbox would look like.
Yeah. Well, and so I agree with you, and I want to build on what you're saying, because initially the buzz was that like there would be a premium Microsoft product, but also like licensed other PCs that have Xbox branding or licensing or whatever, similar to, the Rogue X Ally or whatever. So my notes here say Pactor is not optimistic about the future of the brand. And then my follow-up note is, frankly, neither am I. And it's kind of like that. Like you, I don't think the Xbox brand per se is going to go away, but I do think this Xbox Series is going to turn out to be the last Xbox released hardware. This to me sounds like they're going to do licensed PCs or whatever still, but that's it. I'm not expecting much more than licensed PCs in the future at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point,
I'd love to be wrong, but what were you saying?
That at this point, I don't even know if they would do their own in-house one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It'll be licensed out hardware, and I think the Series hardware is going to be the last of the Microsoft gaming hardware. I think they have already done their last hardware release, and they and we didn't know it at the time.
So, I mean, Xbox is basically going to just be, in essence, a version of the Windows operating system that you can install on a PC.
Well, yeah, that I could see them.
It already is a Windows operating system, but
yeah, within Windows operating system, you have the Xbox app, and I could basically see them, especially if they get like a good compatibility layer solution in, and can enable us to play our console Xbox licensed games on our PC via the Xbox Store app or whatever. Like, I could really see them just keeping the Xbox platform living as just the Xbox app. And, if you're buying an Xbox licensed PC, it's going to be guaranteed to run da 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 games at such and such spec, or not guaranteed, but, it most likely to do so or whatever. Similar to the way that, stuff like the Steam Deck is already sold and the way that we're expecting the Steam machines to be sold.
Right, right. I mean,
hell, to
it
that
doesn't
end,
look
we
good.
could end up
Yeah.
seeing a Steam brand. We could see a Steam made Xbox branded PC for all we know in the future.
Ugh, that'd be weird. Like, can we just have Sega come back into the hardware market, please? I mostly joke. I don't think we need more hardware competing with other hardware, but yeah, Sega got done dirty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I know that this isn't relitigate console wars from 26 years ago, Buoy, but one of the big problems for Sega was that Sony overpromised with the PlayStation 2 and people believed them.
True.
It will never stop chapping my hide being at the game store in, 1999 and talking about how excited I was for the Dreamcast, and the game store clerk talking about how the PS2 is going to be rendering Toy Story in real time.
Oh my God.
Right. Anyway. Yeah, not optimistic about the future of Xbox. I mean, I'm already at a point where my Xbox consoles are largely just media boxes. And
Same.
then, like, if I can get a crazy good deal, I will. Like, I just got the Rideout Remastered collection for the Xbox Series platform. It was like $16.
Okay.
And that's a pretty recent release, right? So I was like, okay, well, for $16, I'll play it on Xbox. But like that's where I'm at for Xbox. I'm really not trying to invest in that platform. I'm really not trying to really be on it other than, for how it is convenient in my life already. But otherwise, really starting to move most of my gaming over to Switch 2 in particular, and also PS5.
Yeah.
Really, really glad the Switch 2 came along when it did, and that it has the power profile it does. I tell you what.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we should probably move on, even though, frankly, I think we could talk about the Xbox kerfuffle for a fair while.
Oh boy.
But this next one is, in fact, kind of another kerfuffle. And I have to make two notes here. First, we are likely to talk a little sloppily about this topic. That is because it is a little bit of a fraught topic, the kind of thing where we need to watch our language. Basically, the news story here is that the Saudi Arabian-owned RTS has acquired the Evo fighting game tournament series. This is a complete ownership by the Saudi business interests of the Evo fighting game tournament series. In addition to this, we also got the announcement of multiple new Evo events around the world. I'm not going to talk about the specific dates and locations about that at this moment, because that's a little bit less of the point, unfortunately. In the interest of fair-handedness, of course, I have to note that officials for Evo did put out a press release after some uproar in the fan base, noting, quote unquote, under RTS ownership, Evo's traditions, values, and identities will remain unchanged, with a continued focus on serving players, fans, and publishers at every level of the industry. Which is, good PR speak. I understand why you would put a press release out. But I have to tell you, for me, and again, I try very hard to make this strong delineation, I have no problem or concern with people from this region of the world, and want, in fact, nothing but the best for all individuals. But I do have some concerns with this governing bodies, corporate interests coming into ownership of this social gaming event. And my concerns are strong enough that I think I'm likely to unplug from Evo for the foreseeable future.
Mhm.
Slaggy, do you have any thoughts, concerns, considerations?
Yeah, this actually reminds me of something that I saw on social media today. It is a quote from, and I apologize if I am not saying her name right, Marjane Satrapi, who is the creator of the graphic novel Persepolis, basically about how the difference, like basically the part that stands out to me is the difference between you and your government is much bigger than the difference between you and me, and the difference between me and my government is much bigger than the difference between me and you, and our governments are very much the same. Like, I thought that was very profound, and that was actually a quote that she had said like 20 years ago. I honestly don't know if she is still alive. I don't know much about her, to be honest, but um, the thing is, that was completely unrelated to gaming news. It was related to other geopolitical things that are happening right now. Um, but I just,
But
in terms of
insight
what
is
you were
insightful regardless of where you find it.
exactly, and what you were saying about our concerns being with the larger geopolitical human rights issues in that region, I just wanted to kind of build on that as well. But yeah, in terms of Evo, yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, I enjoyed watching Evo like when we used to do Buoy in studio, and it was like that time of year, and we would like stream it and order some takeout and stuff like that. But I never really like followed Evo as closely as you did, but still, I recognize that it is important, and I recognize that this is something that people may choose not to support. So I am glad that we are sharing this information so that people can make their own informed decisions. In other words, for me, it will be easy to not support it because it's not like I was really watching Evo every year, but I have enjoyed it in the past, so it's a bummer.
Yeah. Well, I often do it up Evo, and it's like, oh shit, it's Evo weekend and streaming all weekend. Like I'll set up a TV just to have Twitch going, sometimes a couple of TVs for a couple of different streams and, go out and pick up, some drinks and, maybe even depending on and this is a little different, I guess, between my apartment and where I live now, but it's like, oh yeah, it used to be like, we'll make us some fucking hamburgers or something. And now I guess I'm a little bit more about, oh yeah, we'll have some yogurt and some ice cream or something. But either way, I still like to do it up for Evo. And that's going to probably have to change for a little while. And that's okay, but I don't love it.
Now you can just do it up for Revo.
All right, moving forward. We had some really major news here that I think shocked a lot of us. This was the news that broke last week about Sony shutting down Blue Point Games. This was, I think, a major shock to many of us. Sony came into ownership of the studio in 2021. Previous to that, they had been founded back in 2006. They're really well known for like the remakes of Shadow of the Colossus that they've done, the PlayStation 5 launch success of the Demon's Souls remake. I mean, they're they've been so successful that Sony acquired them. Apparently, however, according to Bloomberg, they had been working on a live service God of War game for several years that was canceled in January as a part of Sony's reevaluation of their games as a service portfolio. We've kind of talked a little bit about the viability of that games as a service portfolio. It's been a little bit of a running story for us since the Concord kerfuffle last year, really. It seems that Sony has been largely reevaluating that portfolio since then. They had gone all in on games as a service, and many of us had a lot of concerns about that. And now those concerns appear to be coming true. Um, Perhaps the most damning piece of information about this Bluepoint Games closure, though, this is, of course, going to result in roughly 70 employees losing their jobs come March. This is word that they had been pitching multiple projects in the last year to obviously, find a path forward, find a future. Reportedly, one of these projects that they proposed was a full remake of Bloodborne in the style of their Demon's Souls remake, which I should note many of us were very happy with that remake. The really crazy thing here is, according to Jason Schreier, who is the one who sort of talked about this, basically Bluepoint was told that the numbers for the project did make sense, but they couldn't get From Software's agreement, so it just didn't happen. Basically, From Software refused and didn't let this one materialize. Now, something that's interesting about this is that there have been a lot of quotes going around over the last year or two about Miyazaki-san from FromSoft and how Bloodborne is, his favorite of their games, and aesthetically it's like really personal and really like to the point that Shuhei Yoshida-san, formerly of PlayStation, he had said that his theory was that he wouldn't want anyone else to be doing a remake of that game specifically. And so Yoshida-san had previously said that if there was to be a Bloodborne remake, it wouldn't be anytime soon because he wouldn't want anyone else to be touching it. He was saying that about Miyazaki-san from FromSoft. So, all in all, just kind of a major bummer of a story. Not only is a well-loved studio closing up, but the studio had been trying to make a game that the fan base has been screaming for years. I can understand, of course, that Miyazaki-san may want to do this remake himself someday personally, but it all just feels like a huge missed opportunity and a terrible tragedy that all of these people are going to be losing their jobs. What do you think, Slaggy?
Yeah, I just think when any studio shuts down, obviously that's terrible, but like that Shadow of the Colossus remake was really well received. I am not a business person, obviously, but like, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, for real. For real.
And like, obviously like Demon's Souls, Bloodborne, those types of games aren't really for me, but when people are like wanting more of it, then I don't get it.
Indeed. We also had another piece of news that had a fan base screaming. Slaggy, did you want to get into this one?
Yeah, this was an announcement that Nier Automata has passed the 10 million games shipped mark. That is pretty huge. So that was a joint announcement from Square Enix and Platinum Games. And the thing that really had people buzzing is that they put out a little video that kind of looked at the different things in the franchise, but it just said Nier Automata to be continued. Ooh, what does it mean?
I mean, what does it mean?
Yeah, I will say that I am really overdue to play Nier Automata. Like, I originally was like, oh, well, when I get around to that series, I'll play Nier Replicant first, but I'm like, maybe I should just play Nier Automata first and hope that anything from the first Nier or any of the Drakengard's like is able to be absorbed through whatever is in the game. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you can definitely enjoy Automata as a standalone. I do think Replicant is a cool game. I've been a fan of the original Nier since it came out here on the 360.
With Daddy Nier.
Yeah, but I do think you can just do Automata, especially given the various influences that you're already familiar with. Like, no, you'll have no problem slotting in.
Yeah, and I did play through the Raid series in Final Fantasy XIV, so.
Yeah. Let's see. We also got the major announcement of a brand new .hack game. This was announced 2 weeks ago on the 30th anniversary of CyberConnect 2's founding.
Wow.
This is going to be a action role-playing game for consoles, and it will be part of a bigger project across multiple forms of media, as the .hack series tends to do. Fingers crossed we're also going to get a new anime series, I hope. Fingers crossed.
You know, .hack was one of those anime that I always wanted to check out, but because it was back in the day where it's like, oh, guess you got to go on Right Stuff. And I say on Right Stuff, or I mean, like, even before that, having to, like, order stuff from their print catalog, you know? And like, oh, well, I'm just going to spend $150 on this DVD set or whatever.
Yeah. That's a different world.
Yeah, so this might be a good way to get people excited about the franchise or rekindle the love that people once had for it. Because, I mean, I remember people being super into .hack.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of feel like it kind of was really like the predecessor for stuff like Sword Art Online.
In many ways, I think I can see that. All right, well then, moving on. We also have word here. This is coming out of Koei Tecmo that they have announced a series of organizational changes. These organizational changes will be going into effect on April 1st and will be involving the realignment of several of their studios/teams. One of the more notable things for our purposes here is that the Team Ninja Division 1 team is actually going to be transferred to Gust and renamed Gust Division 2. So I think that's really interesting. And the interesting thing here to note as well is that they're splitting the old Team Ninja, and half of the old Team Ninja will stay on as the new halves of the new Team Ninja. So they will still have a Team Ninja Division 1 and 2. It will just be made up of the old Team Ninja 2, while Team Ninja 1 becomes Gust Division 2. Obviously, that's really interesting, especially since we've seen so much activity out of Koei Tecmo's Ninja Gaiden series over the last year. It's interesting to see people sort of transferring away from Team Ninja. They're also typically responsible for the Dead or Alive games, and we're starting to see some activity in that quadrant as well, so I'm surprised. That having been said, Gust has worked on some of the spin-off type stuff, including but not limited to Dead or Alive Extreme Venus Vacation. So maybe this is about keeping talent, keeping it in the family, so to speak, and keeping people involved on the IPs that they're already experienced in working with. Do you have any thoughts on this redistribution of labor?
Better that than shutting down studios or divisions completely.
Big that. Yep, you have the absolute right of it when you put it that way. All right, well then, before we get to our updates, our release updates, that is, we have one more here, and it is itself half of a release update. We got another look at the long-awaited and much-anticipated Slay the Spire 2, and we got the exciting announcement that Slay the Spire 2 is going to be releasing in early access on March 5th. So by the time you're listening to this episode, it's going to be just a couple of days away. We got the first look at the new 4-player co-op mode as well. Definitely looking like they're advancing the roguelike deck builder genre, similar to the way they advanced it with the first game. I'm really excited about this one. Slaggy, did you have any thoughts?
This looks really cute. I did not get around to Slay the Spire when the first one came out, so the fact that this has 4-player co-op, that could be fun.
Yeah. All right, well then, as for those release updates, We have word that Balatro is now available for Switch 2.
Ooh.
We have word that Dissidia Duellum Final Fantasy is available now for pre-registration ahead of its release on Android and iOS later this March.
Oh, cool. It's just too bad that we'll probably be reporting on it shutting down in fall 2027.
Oh, too real. Even though I'm planning on playing it. We also have the announcement here of the Power Wash Simulator 2 DLC Adventure Time Pack. This is priced at $7.99 and will be launching on April 9th. We also have word here that Lollipop Chainsaw Repop will be releasing on Nintendo Switch 2 on May 28th.
Oh. That's the one that's problematic, right?
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky because it has some in its original form. It has some like really cool like contributors, like James Gunn wrote for it or whatever. But it's like also now kind of being shepherded by seeming glopper gloopers. So I'm not quite sure overall what to make of it. But I do think it's a noteworthy release, and I liked the game in its original form. So it's just nuanced.
Dog whistles.
We also have word here that Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger X 1+2 Dual Collection has been announced for the PlayStation 5, PC, Switch, and Switch 2, and will be releasing across these platforms on July 9th. I'm a big... Yeah, this is a spin-off of the Gunvolt series, obviously. It was there in the name. I'm a big fan of this stuff. I've played these games, so I don't know that I'll be likely to revisit them, but I do think it's cool that they're, making sure that all of these various Gunvolt games and sub-series, most of which I really enjoyed back on the 3DS, are still available and accessible to modern gamers today.
Good for you, NT Creates.
Go for you. 2 for you, NT Creates. Let's see. We also have word here of 70s style robot anime Geppy X. That is the name of the game.
Oh my god.
This is a remaster that has been announced for PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC. It's coming out on July 16th. And this is really interesting in that it's a remaster of an old PlayStation or an old Japan-only PlayStation game that released in the late 90s. It's one of those things where like I've heard of Geppy X, but I've never played Geppy X, and that it's getting this like deluxe treatment, like glow up remaster is so freaking cool to me. I'm really excited about this. I really just love the whole theming they've done for this release. Slaggy, I bet you're getting a kick out of that too.
I mean, it's very obscure, but that's Game Buoy for you.
Ah!
I mean, you do love 70s style robot anime, so
it's true. It's true. Giant robots and particularly super robots are that is what gets my motor going.
And I'm sure when 70s style robot anime Geppy X is announced as the next Super Robot Wars DLC and it's like another 80 hours of content, we'll be hearing about that on WhatsApp.
If that happened, I would be so happy. All right. Well, the last big release update we have for you is a big major release update, which is sort of appropriate for this episode. Probably one of the most anticipated games of the year, Insomniac's Marvel's Wolverine, is going to be releasing on September 15th of this year. I mean, this is obviously huge, massive. I will definitely be playing it day one. Slaggy, anything to say about Wolverine?
Sounds pretty bloody cool.
Ah!
Because it's going to be really bloody.
Yeah, right? But probably also sexy.
Ooh. Yeah.
All right. Well, then let me wrap up these release updates by starting something a little new. This is the slate of retro release updates since we last recorded or last aired. On February 17th, we had the NSO Classics Plus expansion pack update This was for the Virtual Boy library. We, of course, talked about this previously and will talk about it a little more later, so I don't want to dig too deep here.
Shocking.
Pardon?
Shocking.
Right. On February 19th, we had the Arcade Archives release of Adventure Canoe. This was a 1982 Taito game for arcade. We also got the console archives release of Dezaemon. This was a Famicom game released in 1991 by ATHENA, which is one of the software catalogs that Hamster owns outright, the old ATHENA output. Dezaemon is a really cool, almost like build it yourself shoot 'em up, but like years before that was kind of a normal thing. Think of it as like shmup maker, the way that, there's RPG maker, except it's on the Famicom. You get to design your own sprites, program your own, behaviors, write your own little music. It is a surprisingly fully featured shmup maker.
That's so cute.
Yeah. So it's available on the eShop already. I believe it's also available on the PlayStation 5. I checked it out on the Switch, though, so that's where I can speak first-handedly about it. Just really cool to see stuff like this that released back in the day but didn't get an international release back then, finally kind of have access internationally to it and just see how cool it was, and to sort of get a sense of just some of the neat stuff that publishers were doing in Japan on the Famicom in the early 90s. Where to me in the early 90s, the Nintendo/Famicom platform was on the way out at that point. Let's see. And then we also had an Arcade Archives release on February 26th. This one, another one we had already talked about previously, is the arcade release of Rave Racer. This was a 1995 Namco release. It is a entry in the well-loved Ridge Racer series. And I actually don't think the tracks in Rave Racer have all ever been fully replicated at home. So in many ways, this is kind of like the first home port of Rave Racer, I think.
Wow.
Very exciting stuff. Really good retro release week. And we will keep you posted on retro release weeks in the future.
Rave Racer.
Nice. All right. Well, all of this having been done, all of this having been said, take us to the club.
Don't you mean the Church of the Poisoned Mind? At some point, I'm going to run out of Culture Club songs, but oh well. We have a really fun one here that I'm really excited about. This is the announcement of a release date, but the reason it wasn't in the release date section is because it's something that we want to highlight. This is Little Nemo and the Guardians of Slumberland from Dicesoft. It is a 2D Metroidvania game. It will be coming to PC via Steam on March 31st and later this year on Switch. I kind of feel like I manifested this release date announcement because I was talking about the Capcom game the other week. It is important to note that this is notably not directly related to the Capcom game. Obviously, both are based off the same original source material from Winsor McKay, which has, I think, for quite a while been in the public domain, or at least a couple of years. The art style is really cute and just really soft and dreamlike. And I think Metroidvania is going to be a good fit for that intellectual property. Obviously, the Capcom original, I say original, it's not that this is directly related, but the Little Nemo game that we refer to often on this show was beloved, but it was pretty Capcom hard in parts for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, because I remember bashing my head, so to speak, really trying to finish this game on my third day of renting it from Blockbuster, and literally fighting the end game boss as my parents are waiting to drive to Blockbuster to return this game before we get a late fee.
Yeah.
So
See, I owned a copy, but
Well, no, I got a copy after that, but like
Yeah.
that was sort of the thing back in the day was like if I could rent something and beat it in one rental, we wouldn't buy it. And I did
Yeah.
not finish this, even though I got to the last boss of the game. I didn't. If I had known that was the last boss of the game, we probably wouldn't have ended up buying it. I'm happy that didn't happen, however, because I really liked that game and I'm happy I had the ability to revisit it just because of how access worked at the time.
Yeah, I remember like the level that was set in like a child's playroom with a bunch of like toys, like that
The one with the
one.
train, or
Yes, and I love the train, but like I remember like that train used to fuck me up a lot of the time. And then I think I only ever got to the Topsy Turvy world, which I think was the last world, like once. So that's my way of saying hopefully this new approach for Little Nemo will be a little more accessible. I have
Yeah.
things to say about Capcom Hard later.
All right,
It's
we'll
not
get to it.
it's not just a meme, it's a thing.
All right, well then let's make sure that we keep this episode going fast enough that we have time to talk about those things. Let's get to this next news story. This is word that the popular board game created by Richard Garfield, King of Tokyo, is getting a video game port. This is going to be launching on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Switch, and Steam on May 21st. There is a limited edition version that actually comes with like a small official board game expansion where like this is the only way to get it. So I feel like I know some people who are going to end up buying this game and then never playing the video game version,
Right.
which is funny. But for me, as long as like, oh man, no, just couch multiplayer mode. I was going to say if this had online, honestly, I could see myself getting it just to play with like our old board game group. Total missed opportunity.
Yeah. Cuz I remember playing King of Tokyo a couple times.
Yeah. It was really accessible, very easy to play.
Yeah, maybe I'll look. This would be a good one to look for when it goes on discount, maybe. For me, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, then let's keep this show moving. We also have word here. This is actually, this is kind of beautiful. So I'll just read the headline from the Games Radar article. This is Stop Killing Games optimism is at an all-time high as two official organizations are established to take part in long-term counter-lobbying. We're going to win this. This is, to me, a really exciting update that just came on February 20th. Advocate Ross Scott from Stop Killing Games basically posted a video where he was detailing two non-governmental organizations that have been established in both Europe and the US, basically to take part in what he described as long-term counter-lobbying and watchdog actions. I think this is a really good thing. This is exactly the kind of thing I was hoping for at the end of last year, that we would see, actual meaningful progress made in the support of initiatives like Stop Killing Games. And it sounds like that's what's starting to happen. I think getting these kinds of organizations together to start engaging in these civil actions is what starts the changes we're looking for and hoping for. So I was really heartened to see this article and really stoked. And myself, I've become quite optimistic. Slaggy, what did you think?
Yeah, this is definitely a bright spot of news. I honestly am surprised. I thought that companies were to keep killing games. I mean, and they maybe will, but
Well, speaking
now,
of keeping killing games, I think you have a great news story to pair with that.
Yeah, so this was interesting, and it's funny because we both ended up linking this to each other, and we're like, oh, yeah. So this is kind of a follow-up. I can't remember if we talked about this on the show, but back in November, Chris Stockman, who was the original director of the Saints Row franchise, had revealed that he had wanted to revive the franchise. A couple of years ago, they did a reboot that was not well received. My understanding is it kind of harkened back to the first two games that did not quite have the quirky humor that 3 and 4 were known and loved for. And that at one point, Embracer Group had actually reached out to him, but then this article on Eurogamer is sharing there was a Discord conversation that someone had with him, and he basically said Embracer ghosted him, and that in his opinion the franchise is dead now. Like, that just really sucks. This is almost kind of doomy and gloomy, but it's, not officially dead, but, just kind of based on what his insight was, that's disappointing. I appreciated that Saints Row, at least 3 and 4, which is, my experience with Saints Row, like, it had a sense of humor. It didn't take itself too seriously, and really kind of positioned itself as like the antithesis of Grand Theft Auto. I think in our modern geopolitical climate, it could have a lot of things to say in a kind of tongue-in-cheek way. Maybe let us act out some power fantasies, So hopefully some other company will reach out and say, like, hey, this guy's got ideas. Let's capitalize on that. I mean, not literally, but also literally capitalism.
Yeah, and I do want to note, I did play that new Saints Row, and while it's true that some of the over-the-top humor and camp was toned down, I did still find it to be fairly irreverent and even to be a favorable power fantasy, if you catch my drift.
Okay, that's good to know. So the fact that Embracer ghosted him, though, either means that they're like, we don't need you, or that they just aren't leveraging the franchise. And I think that's kind of what he's feeling like. We haven't heard anything else about Saints Row in a couple of years, so meh. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I likewise am not particularly optimistic. We have a really exciting update here on the Tales of series. This was word. I actually, funny enough, I saw this video before I saw the news article about what it was. The animation studio UFO Table released a trailer sort of hyping what their animation projects for 2026 are going to be looking like. And in that trailer, there was sort of a title card for Tales of, teasing a 30th series 30th anniversary collaboration reveal coming on April 3rd. This is, of course, exciting because UFO Table, they have done the anime TV series adaptations of several of the Tales of series, particularly Zestiria and Symphonia. But they've also done like the animated cut scenes in the games themselves for quite a few of the games, including Exilia and Berseria, both of which have been remastered in the last year, as well as Tales of Arise, which was the most recent game in the series. So basically a series producer at Bandai Namco referred to the video when people were asking questions about it and said, details regarding our next collaboration with UFO Table will come April 3rd. So basically, please look forward to it. And this is definitely something we will be talking about in 2 or 3 episodes.
Oh.
We also got word here, and this is only tangentially game related here, but it is itself major news. This is news of a new Neon Genesis Evangelion anime series. The reason why we're talking about it, however, is that it's going to be written by Nier Automata's Yoko Taro, which for me firmly gives this the fuck you, it's culture stamp of Game Buoy approval.
Right.
Right. Here's the thing for me. I think that one of the reasons why Hideaki Anno was able to do with Evangelion what he did is that he actually understood the themes of Gundam and like the various things that Gundam was trying to do and say, rather than just seeing it as like, wow, cool robot, I love these model kits. He really engaged with like the anti-war, anti-weapons of mass destruction sentiment of the Universal Century setting, typical in the what we sort of think of as like the mainline Gundam series. And I really do think that it's his response to those themes that largely make Evangelion what it is, right? Like really taking that weapons of mass destruction as a giant robot that your dad is making you pilot and really looking at the horror of that situation, right? And so for me, within the game space, we have already seen Yoko Taro work on a similarly insightful vibe. Um, so my thing is, based on that vibe that we have seen Yoko Taro across his games now execute at a high level, I really do think this new Evangelion anime series is going to be something worth paying attention to, particularly for people who are interested in the kinds of media that Slaggy and I are interested in, and which we think the typical Game Buoy listener is likely to be interested in. And I'll note my last note on the very idea of an Evangelion sequel is, of course, it won't replace the original, but why should we expect it to? And that's just kind of my opinion on sequels in general. Obviously, I don't love when bad sequels to things come out, or bad follow-ups, or bad new installments, but I like when good sequels, installments, and iterations come out, and otherwise I just try to ignore the bad ones. Anyway, Slaggy, did you have anything to say about this?
I better not, or else this will turn into Anime Buoy, so we'll talk offline.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right, well then keep this show rolling.
So we have an update from the so controversial Discord age verification kerfuffle. We have word from Discord that they are delaying their age verification rollout worldwide after significant backlash. They were kind of claiming that they just weren't clear with their messaging. Honestly, it just kind of feels like they're backtracking because they've been found out. And they're like, oh, we're not completely halting it. You know, some places like the UK have laws in place. And, oh, it's important to have an experience that's safe for teens, which, LOL, I mean, you know what teenagers do. That being said, you know, they acknowledge that there were safety concerns for different communities. So, like, I guess they're trying. They promised they will be more transparent about third-party partners that they may partner with in the future. Definitely look at this Eurogamer article. There are ties to companies. It's not good. They also mentioned that they are trying to make sure that as they're rolling out this age verification, that's not done automatically, like on an account level, based on the age of your account or like having a credit card or whatever, that they want to try to keep it done on device. That's one of the big things that was a problem with the partner firms that had been working with Discord to try to roll this out. So hopefully they do it right, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic. I've seen basically a huge push of people saying if you have Nitro, now is the time to cancel. And like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
We also have a really interesting news story here, and it's one that I'm personally kind of interested in as well. This is word that basically there are nearly as many people playing the new unreleased Valve team shooter on Steam as there are playing Overwatch on Steam. So
and
this new
by
Valve...
By Overwatch, you mean Overwatch 2, that's now just Overwatch, right?
Well, yes.
Okay, there is no original Overwatch. They killed that game.
Right? Like this Valve game, Deadlock, this is literally an unreleased invite-only game. Like you can effectively think of it as like still being in early access or beta or something.
Oh, wow.
And yet, it is as popular nearly as Overwatch on the platform. Deadlock was the 6th most played game on the entire Steam platform in January. Again, despite being unreleased and invite only. This was soft launched in the fall of 24. It's still not available to all users, however. You pretty much need to have access given to you, you need to be invited by someone else who's already in it. It is my understanding that like there are chains of people who like, hey, get an invite and I'll invite you and then you invite this person or whatever. So like there are communities to get access or whatever, as I understand it, but Just a real interesting situation, and I think a real sign that Deadlock, when it releases, or at least gets closer to release, is going to be one to keep an eye on.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited to see more competition for Overwatch and Rivals, because I definitely think this is the type of situation where rivalries will make all three of them better games.
Absolutely. And kind of just harkens back to Team Fortress 2.
Indeed.
Kind of started it all.
Yeah. We also got an update here out of GOG, that is Good Old Games. The actual quote that they gave is, to me, worth repeating. Games preservation only works if people care. And so basically, per this article that we will link you to over on GameBuoy.org,
GameBuoy.org,
which ran over at Eurogamer.net, GOG is sort of, just discussing that, we all want the type of product that GOG is delivering, at least we all purport to want. That is to say, DRM-free games that work on modern platforms, like releases of our classic games that work on our modern platforms and are not tied up in DRM and what have you. They're selling that. So if you want that, if you say you want that and they have games you want, go to GOG and buy them. Free your games from Steam or Epic Game Store or whatever. Have them DRM free. Have them working on your modern computer. Like, it's a win-win-win if this is a realm you're interested in. I don't really have a lot more than that to say. I guess it's just kind of a little bit of a PSA here in Culture Club. With all that having been said. Saving games. Yeah. With all that having been said, it's time then to leave the club and head to Idaho.
Oh, I hear they play songs for a future generation there.
You're living in your own private Idaho. Living in your own private Idaho.
All right, we have the announcement of the date and time of the 91st Letter from the Producer Live for Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
Seems like they will be starting to give some information about patch 7.5, which I guess that will be coming sooner rather than later. I feel like I haven't done a lot with 7.4. But yeah, this will be on March 13th.
At least the 7.45 update is supposed to be coming this week, I believe.
Ooh, good news.
Yeah.
So this will be March 13th. 4 a.m. Pacific time, 7 a.m. Eastern time. I will probably just be catching it afterwards or catching the news bits and best parts because that's early.
And probably I'll send you a slew of text messages at 5:30 and you'll see them when you wake up.
Cool.
Let's see. We also got an interesting news story here. This is about the functionality of Pokemon Pokopia. Director Takuto Edogawa-san basically confirmed that the game for the multiplayer online service will use Minecraft-style cloud servers, so we won't have to have the host online when we're trying to work on our shared worlds together. To me, this is a very good thing. I definitely prefer this approach to a pure host-based system. Slaggy, do you have any thoughts?
That's so cool. Like, I know when this first was revealed, everyone's like, oh, Pokemon Crossing, but like, honestly, it's looking to be more like a Minecraft-y Dragon Quest Builders with a little bit of Animal Crossing, flavor, of course, too.
Yeah, it's looking way more Dragon Quest Builders adjacent than it had at its reveal, and frankly, I think a lot of us are eating it up. There was a Treehouse Live just like a week ago. They showed like an hour of gameplay of this thing, and I think a lot of us pre-ordered as a result of that stream.
Yeah, I can't wait to build a Pokopia with y'all.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. We also got the announcement and surprise release of the Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition Switch 2 Edition upgrade.
Yeah.
The upgrade went live digitally on February 19th, and there will be a physical edition available on April 16th. It is worth noting I have got this upgrade. It was a paid $5 upgrade. Um, I'm not fully happy with it. It does everything it says on the tin. It just how do I say this? If you're rendering a high resolution image, why does it look so muddy?
Oh no.
Yeah. I've seen, the Digital Foundry and those types of guys calling attention and concern to it. So I suspect we will see, another update or a patch for the patch type situation. But at least at this time, it just isn't quite performing as well as you get the sense it should be performing. That having been said, the frame rate unlock is very nice, and I don't exactly regret my purchase, even though I have seen some people online, screaming bloody murder. It's unplayable. It's awful. I just, it's a little ugly. It's not quite as nice as what I thought I was buying, but it's still an upgrade for sure. It is still an upgrade for sure. We also got the announcement of a new Super Pocket handheld gaming system. I don't know that we've talked about these on the show before. This is almost like kind of like a clone series of like the Evercade line of cartridge-based handheld gaming consoles. I believe Rob Roberts of Orange Lounge Radio is a big fan of the Evercade platform. Basically, they use these little cartridges and release retro games on them. And they're retro games across generations, typically. The really cool thing about this one is that it comes with a cartridge of rare games. So stuff like Banjo-Kazooie, Battletoads, Cobra Triangle, RC Pro-Am 2. It's, pretty cute stuff. It is worth noting previous rare games that have been in some other collections, including Saberwolf, Underworld, and Battletoads Arcade, are not present on this cartridge. Though there is a different rare cartridge that has them available. This whole retro pocket handheld platform thing is really fascinating to me. I haven't gotten into any of these type of retro platform or retro pockets, and I don't think I'm inclined to. But I do find myself really fascinated by them. Slaggy, do you have any opinions on these pocket handhelds?
Honestly, they had not been on my radar, but there's a Taito edition that has Bubble Bobble, Puzzle Bobble, the New Zealand story, and Kiki Kai Kai.
Yeah. And the thing is, girl, they're cartridge based. So like you can literally if you just get one, you can then just get whatever cartridges you like and have all the games you like. So you could, for example, buy the Taito one and then buy a rare cartridge, or buy the rare one and then buy a Taito cartridge.
How are they in terms of fidelity to the original experience, though?
So from hearing Rob and others talk about it, it sounds like they emulate pretty accurately.
That's good. So maybe not hamster level, but serviceable.
That's my sense.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's see. And then we had a big update out of Destiny 2. This is word that the big Order and Shadow update has been officially delayed for more than 3 months as it gets large revisions and a new name. And that was the whole headline I just read you off of Games Radar. We will, of course, link you over at GameBuoy.org.
GameBuoy.org.
So this was supposed to be releasing on March 3rd. It was supposed to be called Order and Shadow. It is instead going to be releasing on June 9th. And I don't think have the full name available yet. We just know that it is going to be basically a different name, and the content of the update is going to be changed and expanded. In addition, they are now going to be focusing on sizable quality of life updates. So, hopefully things turn out better for this happening, but the vibes were already not very good coming out of the Destiny 2 fan base from my perspective, and this just kind of made it worse. So I sure hope things are going okay over there for Destiny players. I love those games. I had a really good time with them when I was putting time into them, and
Yeah.
yeah, just hope for better for them.
The best quality of life change that I could hope for is that having the entire Destiny 2 experience be available again, that would get me back into Destiny 2.
You can still visit all of the planets you previously paid us to access.
Oops. To shift things a little bit, we have a really cool Games Radar article. It is definitely worth reading. Games Radar talked to the developers of the upcoming Fatal Frame 2 remake, the director specifically, and there's just some really cool insights about the game, but what stood out to me was a quote that it's kind of like the pull quote of the article, really, is they were talking about Japanese horror games and kind of like how, they're a little bit different from, what you might expect. It says, a real Japanese horror game is good at restraining jump scares and graphic violence, instead stimulating the player's imagination. And I appreciate that as someone who does not like jump scares and have gone on record saying this and have gone on stream in the past for the amusement of lovely and beautiful listener and watcher playing PT.
Well, and I will
being
say,
jump
I will say,
scared.
I will say, when we did the PT stream, and obviously this was, gosh, more like a decade ago,
Yep.
but my recollection is that you were on the edge of your seat not during the jump scares. It was really during the quiet, creeping dread moments that you were like, oh my God. And so I really do get what they're saying here. The jump scares are fun or whatever, but the real heart of the horror experience is that tension and the idea, again, frightening things can be beautiful was a pull quote from this article. And I think it's kind of that exactly, right? Like, there's more to being afraid than just a ghost popping out of the corner and saying boo.
I need to do an alternate take on that quote. Frightening things can be beautiful.
Ah!
But in all seriousness, I remember talking about one of the Fatal Frames on a pre-pandemic Buoy and enjoying the little bit of time I had spent with that franchise. So I will probably be looking into this.
Excellent.
I do have to say, I appreciate that Silent Hill 2, the remake anyway, I appreciate the atmospheric dread and it not being super jump scary. I know that obviously the remake was not done by a Japanese company, but still, the point stands.
We also have a announcement here I was really excited about. The game we had previously talked about,
Penises and butts.
Kyoren Makaiism, has been announced for a worldwide release. This is going to be releasing here as Disgaea Mayhem. This is a action RPG spin-off of the Disgaea series. We kind of talked about this a couple of episodes ago. I think at the time we had even speculated that if it came over, it would probably be called Disgaea something. I think I had been speculating some take on Disgaea Musou or Disgaea Warriors. Disgaea Mayhem tracks for me. I'll definitely be checking this one out when it releases this summer. Any thoughts? Did you see the trailer or any of the character art for this one?
Just what was in this article, but any new Disgaea adjacent stuff is good.
Yeah.
I do like that badass looking. I would say elf, but it's probably like a demon, right? Because it's Disgaea.
Yeah, that's a demon.
Kind of like a Ryoko, like that style demon.
Let's see. Oh, this was a big news story I was really excited about. We had an announcement here. This was collaboratively coming out of Limited Run Games and Konami. Konami got a big up, even though they were only involved with one game in this collection. This is the Marvel Maximum Collection. This is going to be collecting, they're describing it as classic Marvel 8-bit and 16-bit games into one package, but it also includes arcade games, so I don't quite agree with your description. I guess the centerpieces of this collection are probably the two arcade games. That's X-Men, the arcade game. This was, of course, the Konami side-scrolling beat 'em up, as well
Yeah.
as Captain America and the Avengers, which was a side-scrolling beat 'em up by I think it was like the Data East and those guys. Now, something that's cool is that in addition to these games, we're also getting the 16-bit Spider-Man games, or I should say Spider-Man and Venom games, Maximum Carnage and Separation Anxiety. In addition to that, we're also getting Spider-Man and X-Men Arcade's Revenge. And in addition to that, we're getting Silver Surfer for the NES. A couple of these games, Captain America and the Avengers, Spider-Man and X-Men, are getting a couple of console ports as well. Captain America and the Avengers is getting the Sega Genesis port and the NES port. Spider-Man and X-Men is going to have the Super Nintendo version as well as the Genesis, Game Boy, and Game Gear versions. And then the Spider-Man and Venom games are going to contain both the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis releases.
See, I think that's super cool. Like, even if I necessarily didn't want to play, for example, DuckTales on the Game Boy version or whatever, just having that available on the Disney Afternoon Collection, for example, would be really cool. Or, Aladdin with both versions available.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they are two different games, as we've talked about. Both of them are good.
Yeah. Well, the thing here for me is like, Spider-Man and X-Men is a good example. That is not a good game, in my opinion. The most playable one is the Super Nintendo version, but that was an era of game where, Sega Genesis was trying to be the same game and it just doesn't control as well. Game Boy was trying to do the same thing, but scaled down, as was Game Gear, and neither one controlled very well. It was just a different era of games. But having access to them as bonuses in a collection like this, to me, is a pretty cool extra. That's how I feel about like the Genesis version of Captain America and the Avengers. But the NES version is kind of a different side-scrolling platform game just based on the same idea, which was also the style of that time. So I'm also really appreciative of that inclusion.
A little bonus gallery.
Yeah, right. So I just honestly think this sounds like a really great set of games. I think this is a much better presentation than I ever would have expected most of these games to get. Not X-Men, the arcade game, but otherwise. I'm really stoked about this. Did you have anything else you were thinking on these ones?
I mean, we've talked about how limited run games can be a little bit of there's some issues that have been with them in the past, but I just think that retro games being available is pretty cool. Imagine we did an episode about that or something.
All right. Keep the ball moving forward.
So we finally got the announcement of the long-awaited Red Octane spiritual successor to the Plastic Instrument franchise. This has been officially announced as Stage Tour. It will allow you to use a variety of input options, including PC keyboards, and the note charts will change depending on the controller you use. Kind of sounds like Fortnite Festival to me in that regard. They also will be continuing to work with Gibson. We've already seen, some of those great cracked Les Pauls. So, not cracked, but, cracked the brand. So that will be cool. I did see, this Kotaku article doesn't mention it, but I did see reference to plastic drums being confirmed from Red Octane. So, that should be out before the game releases this fall on PC and a wide range of consoles. I am ready.
Me too. Music-wise, I think the only confirmed setlist song we have so far is Terminator Oscillator by Static X. But they have noted Stage Tour will feature a wide variety of music focused around the rock and metal genres, though other types of music could show up in the future too. To that end, I will say one of the frequent concerns I saw in the Fortnite Festival fandom, sorry, there were so many F's there, I was a little worried I was going to have a tongue slip,
You're gonna say F slur?
The frequent complaint I saw was that there isn't enough rock and metal in festival. And it's like, well, yeah, of course, because they're trying to, cater to a wide audience. So it's mostly pop. And by definition, pop is popular, So I do think there's a real audience for a game focused on these genres. I'm really excited about this. I've seen people also complain about, the graphics or whatever because they're very Guitar Hero 3-esque. But
I love
even
that.
I even find it kind of charming. Like, I just don't see it as a negative. If this game executes on what they're saying they're going to do, they're firmly doing what I want. I'm really excited about this.
And my correction, the Kotaku article does mention the drum kit controller.
Oh, excellent.
Time for Snake Daddy and Demon Wildfire to live once again.
Indeed. All right. Well, then last but certainly not least for us here in Idaho today, we have word that Neo 3 has set a new series record for sales. This is word that Neo 3 was the first game in the series to clear the 1 million mark in only 2 weeks.
Wow.
In addition, the entire series has sold a cumulative more than 10 million units. Obviously, this is exciting. Anytime you hear about one of these niche-focused game series doing successful numbers, in an era where we're being told that isn't happening, it's kind of a good reminder that there is still a market for these kinds of games that so many of us love. I'm really stoked to hear that Neo 3 is being as well received as it is. I think it's a great game. We are lovers of the Neo series here in this house, and I don't have a lot more than that to say.
Neo, she better do.
All right. Well, let's start getting to some controversial stuff.
Controversial.
Oh my god.
So, I know that the announcement of the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2 was super exciting, but Konami went ahead and pulled Metal Gear Solid 4 from the PS3 store, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker from the PSP store, and the Peace Walker HD console version has also been removed as well. So basically, you can only get the games in the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2. Stop doing this, companies. This is kind of basically kind of what the GOG article was like, or not the GOG article, but what the article you talked about, GOG, was kind of saying, like, but in this case, it's like, people can't get them if the companies are pulling them, so
yeah.
Stop killing games even when you're re-releasing them.
Indeed. All right. We have a news story here that I am going to have to use my language carefully on once again, which I'm not a big fan of. Game Club THG reported on social media that Ludovic Mbach, this is an active fighting game community member, and a part of that game club known for his performance in Street Fighter VI, has been taken into custody by ICE. His friends and family are circulating a GoFundMe for his legal defense. This has been ongoing for a couple of weeks now. I have seen people still talking about it in the last day or two. I believe that they have paid a retainer and initial fees for legal representation for him. But obviously, attorneys are very expensive. And one of the ways that the legal system works, and I'm describing this in a negative way, is that you will often see powerful institutions try to overwhelm individuals. And I kind of feel like that is the type of thing we're seeing in a lot of these cases. So I feel like it's really important that Ludo is able to get good representation. And my heart and thoughts go out to him and everyone in his family. I don't think this is a good thing. I've heard some people say that, like, this is a more complicated situation than it seems. Maybe there are certain legal aspects to it that I don't understand. I can still say pretty safely that I think this is a bad situation.
Yes.
I hope that, like I said, everyone is okay. I hope everyone is safe, and I hope everyone stays well and whole. And I don't feel comfortable speaking my whole thoughts on the matter.
Fair.
We also have word here, and this is another follow-up on something we previously talked about. This is word that Final Fantasy VII, the new updated version on Steam, which released last week, has had a mostly negative user response on Steam. Basically, a lot of people feel that despite this game having some of the enhancement features integrated a little more easily into the game, which, is something that we had speculated about here on the show, I guess the new version also has some really blurry textures that have not been resolving during important cinematic sequences. So, just sounds like kind of a real mess. I guess there was also like some issues where it wasn't rendering at the correct resolution, which is obviously very major. I guess there were battle animation speeds that were just incorrectly set. Just a lot of real negativity. My expectation long term is that all of this stuff will be fixed, but from the sound of it, if you're playing the original FF7 on Steam and you still have access to the older executable, you should probably stick with that for a little longer.
Yeah.
Oh, and then this was a weird news story that I wanted to hear from you.
Yeah, so this was some unfortunate news that came out of game publisher Finji, but it's nothing that they did. So Finji, if you're not familiar with them, were the publishers of Night in the Woods, Tunic. They developed Overland and Usual June. They have been talking about that TikTok has been running racist and sexualized generative AI ads for its games, despite the fact that they opted out of this feature. I guess you would call it a feature. It's this content has still been appearing without their approval. They've been trying to fight with customer service, but basically TikTok is not really providing adequate resolution or answers to the situation. And my understanding is, as of the time of this article's publishing on IGN, that nothing had been resolved and that these ads were still available. That's super gross. I feel really bad for Finji. From my experience, they've put out some, great little games. I don't want to say little, like to diminish their content, but I also have to say I sadly am unsurprised that TikTok's doing bullshit like this, considering its new ownership. And that's all I will say about that.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with what that means, you should Google it and just read up on that and who owns it. And I suspect you can connect some dots on why that might be concerning. Anyway, moving forward, we have a real interesting news story here, and this is one that we will almost certainly be coming back to in the future. This is word that on February 25th, the New York Attorney General's office filed a lawsuit against Valve in Manhattan. The state attorney is accusing Valve of violating New York state laws against gambling, additionally claiming that loot boxes are likely to lead to children becoming addicted to gambling. It is very much worth noting, and of course we will link you to an article on Kotaku.com over at GameBuoy.org.
Kotaku.com over at GameBuoy.org.
Where you can get additional information on this. It is my understanding that in the complaint, there are direct references to Counter-Strike 2, Team Fortress 2, Dota 2, and it's basically kind of a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about here on the show over the years. we have a fair amount of data that suggests that these loot boxes are addictive for people who have, gambling compulsions. And we're really seeing knock-on effects to that degree. So it's tricky because as I've said in the past, I do want there to be a path to monetization, but I think that this kind of blind monetization tends to be exploitative. And so I am happy to see regulation coming for the blind monetization in particular.
Absolutely.
That having been said, this is obviously still very early. Suit was only filed a week ago, so I anticipate that this is one we will be talking about more in the future, but probably not for a little while.
Absolutely. Oh, so there's some controversy in the Pragmata fan community on Reddit. So the Pragmata Reddit community has kind of splintered due to a rise in sexualized content of Diana the android. If you are familiar with Pragmata,
That's the little girl, right?
Yes. Exactly.
I'm sorry, that's what you were going to say, right?
Yes. I was trying to be delicate about it, but yes. So Reddit ended up banning one of the subreddits that specifically was trying to post this lowly fetish art, for lack of a better word. Disgusting.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally disgusted. And it's like, I'm interested in Pragmata ever since you were talking about it. I'm actually kind of interested in what they're doing from a game design perspective. Seeing that it has kind of a creep community online is kind of a bummer.
Well, and the thing is that the Kotaku article is talking about how, like, they even had to, like, some members of the community even felt they had to make the subreddit Pragmata SFW so they could specifically, like, not have to encounter that content. And, like, one of the mods of the main Pragmata subreddit was, like, stepping down because of, like, just all of the bullshit. So yeah, it's gross when there are creepers in communities of games that we enjoy.
Yeah.
But when that sort of illegal content is I'm going to stop myself there.
Normalize banning pedos.
Yeah. At all levels of wealth and power.
Yeah. In fact, I dare say fight the normalization of pedophilia. If you see people in your circle who are doing barely legal or counting the days until she's 18, tell them to knock it off.
God.
Knock it off.
Yeah.
That shit was not cute in the early 2000s, and it is not cute today.
Oh my God. Like, I remember when they were talking about that with the Olsen twins.
Yes, exactly. And probably because of the age we were coming up when that happened, but that's like seared in my memory as far as like the ways that our society normalizes that shit. Ugh. Anyway, moving on. This is kind of a two-pronged story, and I'll handle the first half of it. Basically, the entire industry, or the entire cottage industry of games journalism, has been talking about Highguard. Highguard, for those of you who don't remember, of course, is the online shooter that was revealed at the Game Awards, released last month, and did not find an audience very quickly and has immediately run into some troubles accordingly. Basically, a lot of folks were wondering where this game came from, specifically like where the money was coming from, because this is not, it's an indie game technically, but like this is not a budget game. Like this is not a game that was funded, that was made on the cheap, right? So people were doing some digging, and Games Radar cites GameFile. We will, of course, be citing Games Radar, who will cite GamesFile. We'll link you over at GameBuoy.org.
GameBuoy.org, citing Games Radar, citing GamesFile.
Thank you. Basically, they note that Tencent's Timmy Studio, we're familiar with them, of course, for Pokemon Unite, was the undisclosed lead financial backer behind Wildlight, the studio behind Highguard. So immediately following this cancellation, there was already a blizzard of gloom about the prospects of the games industry, frankly, kind of writ large in light of this games as a service pivot. We've been talking a lot about this in the recent days, weeks, months. The thing is, if even the cash-rich strong arms of Tencent can't buoy you beyond 2 weeks, then what games as a service game stands a chance? Is kind of the vibe that came up in the immediate days following word that things are not looking so good for Highguard. Of course, it must be noted, despite their oodles of on-hand cash, Tencent as a investment company are notoriously stingy. They are known for cutting and running at the first sign of difficulty. So technically, this doesn't really come as a shock. But many of us who, again, are Cassandras are noting this seems like a sign of negative things to come. And then, so I guess, like, the other piece of this, right? And I guess this brings us over to officially doom and gloom.
Doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fellow Kotaku alumni Jason Schreier, who's over at Bloomberg doing some great work, also has been writing about this, and Eurogamer is citing Jason Schreier on Bloomberg, which we will be citing at GameBuoy.org.
We will be citing over at GameBuoy.org.
So, we had details last time about that, there were layoffs, the 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. There had been a suggestion that it was most of the development team. Bloomberg's reporting, or Jason Schreier's reporting on Bloomberg, rather, indicates that, yes, that about 100 members were laid off. Only about 20 remain. And that basically the staff found out at an all-hands meeting, just like, oh, sorry, Tencent pulled the funding and did not meet the marks that Tencent expected.
Damn. I mean, and that's kind of the thing of it, right? Is that everyone is kind of like, where did the money for this game come from? And then everyone was like, how can they fold this game so fast? And unfortunately, the missing piece being Tencent fits in and kind of answers those questions too perfectly.
I almost wonder if we're going to see like Tencent money laundering controversy.
I wouldn't be shocked if that was a topic we talk about at some point in the future. There are a couple of instances where I think that's happening right now, but like, I don't think it's a good idea to cavalierly accuse.
Oh, I'm not accusing.
No, I know you're not. I absolutely know you're not. That's what I'm saying. In this specific context of speculating, I wouldn't be shocked if we had a conversation like that in the future. I agree.
Yeah, just because that seems pretty sus, and I mean, you know what happened to Yuji Naka, so.
Well, exactly. There is precedent to look at this space for that kind of thing to occur. And so I do think there have been a couple of instances of that, notably in the last few years.
Not good. You have some more TV news that's not good, don't you?
Yeah. So we were just talking about Team Montreal and Tencent and, that whole family of companies. We unfortunately got word that Tencent Montreal is closing. I say Tencent Montreal. I mean, of course, Team Montreal. I had seen this being reported initially that Tencent / Team announces closure of Pokemon Unite studios. That is not accurate. Team Montreal is not the Team studio that does Pokemon Unite. In fact, my understanding is that Team Montreal didn't actually ship anything. My understanding is that they worked on multiple AAA open world games, none of which made it to market.
Damn.
So obviously this sucks and is terrible. Our hearts and thoughts go out to everyone who is negatively impacted by this. It's my understanding that we had seen some folks end up at this Teamy studio that had previously been working at like Ubisoft, for example. I really hope all of these people land on their feet. It really sucks. And it must really suck to work on a game for years and then never have anything to show for it. Like, that must really suck,
Absolutely.
both like on a personal level, but also like professionally, your portfolio and resume. It's just a bad scene all around.
Yeah.
We also got word this was of the closure of Midsummer Studios. They had been established in 2024 by a team of developers leaving Firaxis. So these were folks who had done work on like the Civilization series, XCOM, in some cases even stuff like The Sims. Unfortunately, studio creative director Jake Solomon announced the studio's closure. They did show Burbank, the game that they had in development. I'm not really going to talk too much about it because it was a game that leveraged AI, but you know, they were at least trying to do it to like do something different and interesting. Like they were trying to use the AI to like make their characters react more, more reactive to player inputs, which, they were trying to make a game that was like The Sims meets Truman Show, right? So I get the idea.
Great concept, yeah.
Yeah. So I get the idea of needing bigger tech for that, but I just don't think generative AI is going to be the way to go for that. And unfortunately, it doesn't, I don't think the game's likely to make it to market anyway. I just, again, hope everyone who is impacted by this lands on their feet. My heart and thoughts go out to you in this difficult fucking time.
Indeed.
Then one that hurts my heart personally. This is word that the studio Full Circle, whom most of us are probably familiar with for the current online-only Skate reboot that launched in 2025, which we've talked about here on the show a fair bit. This is an EA-owned studio. They posted on their official website on February 25th that they are reshaping to better support the game's long-term future. Unfortunately, that literally means, jobs are being eliminated. I suppose the good thing is that does suggest that they're still committed to updating the game and are, leaning up their team so that they continue to afford to do so for the foreseeable future. It's probably a good sign for the game, but it's definitely a bad sign for the studio. And as a fan of the game and the game franchise, it's definitely a bummer to hear. I hope things get better for Full Circle.
Amazon Games is got a little trouble going on.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so we have news of 2 stories of doomy and gloomy nature involving Amazon Games. The first is that they will no longer be publishing the untitled open world driving game that was developed by Maverick Games. Basically, Amazon said that they have a strategic evolution to focus on projects that leverage Amazon's unique strengths and scales, including the recent relaunch of Luna. What? Why do they do that? And Tomb Raider partnership. The other news is that it has canceled the Battle Royale King of Meat. This game only came out in October, and it will be shutting down as of April 9th of this year. It only ever saw a couple hundred people concurrently playing on Steam at any given time.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of wild to me because King of Meat is, I mean, I don't want to say that it looks like a cool game or a great game or anything, but This was a game that had like a sizable promotion budget, at least. Like, my understanding is that like they did a Mr. Beast promo and everything.
And maybe that's why it failed.
Honestly, I like that because I don't like him. So yeah, no, I'm into it.
I put 99 people ages 1 to 99 in a room. The one who lasts longest without food wins $1 million.
King of
Well,
meat.
the babies got hungry, so we had to remove them from the room.
No.
That's my understanding of what Mr. Beast does.
No,
So
it's
you got
pretty
one
accurate.
more doomy and gloomy. Oh, this has been a doomy gloomy
Yeah.
couple weeks.
Yeah. So this is word that the publisher and developer Nacon has filed for insolvency. This is noteworthy because they filed for insolvency. This is just 2 weeks before Greedfall 2 is releasing its full 1.0 version.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. They have a Nacon press event this week going on. This is happening on March 4th. They're expected to show off multiple games, including Cthulhu, The Cosmic Abyss, The Mound, Edge of Memories, the newest game in the Endurance Motorsport series. Just on the same day that they did this, that they filed for insolvency, they had also launched a third major update for Dragonkin, which is a game they have that's in early access. They released multiple games last year, including Hell Is Us and RoboCop Rogue City. So, yeah, it sounds like they failed to make a loan repayment. They're asking a French court for permission to restructure their debt. The court is expected to make a decision at a hearing in early March, so we will probably have an update here for you soon. I am hoping it is good news and not bad news because, damn, we have had too much bad news this year already.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it's March 1st and I've had my fill of bad news for the year.
Lemon, it's only Tuesday.
Big that. All right. Well, all this having been done, all this having been said, I think it's time for gossip, rumor mongering, and any and all other manner of hearsay.
Rumor has it. Rumor has it. Rumor has it. Rumor has it.
What you got for us, Gossip Girl?
We have word here that Sony is reportedly mulling a PlayStation 6 delay, and Nintendo may be eyeing a Switch 2 price increase, both as a result of AI-driven RAM shortages. We will, of course, link you to the article over at Eurogamer.net over at GameBuoy.org.
Eurogamer.net over at GameBuoy.org.
This is just sort of following in line with some of the news stories we've talked about in our previous episodes. Specifically, this Sony PS6 delay is something that I've been seeing a lot of smoke over for weeks, if not months. Supposedly, there's a timeline where we were gonna get PS6 in 27, and now it's looking a lot more like 28 or even 29. Due to these market fluctuations with the price in RAM. Additionally, Nintendo has repeatedly stood on the idea that they are contracted out for long enough on their current supply chains that they don't have to worry about these price increases yet. But Bloomberg is reporting that, according to people familiar with the company's plans, they are contemplating a price increase later this year to get ahead of the RAM situation. So, yeah.
Remember back in the day when consoles would get price cuts?
All right.
It's like, oh, the Sega Genesis is only $99.99 at KB Toys.
I do, in fact. I do remember that. Unfortunately, because these stories keep happening, they keep floating up, I really do think these are both instances where there is more likely than not to be some truth to it.
Yeah, as far as the PS6 or whatever they'll call it, let's be real, it'll be the PlayStation 6. I don't think that console lifespans have to be 6 to 7 years. Like, that's fine. The PS5 is doing fine, but
Yeah.
not good about the Switch 2.
Yeah. I have to be honest, the PS5 still feels like a young platform to me, even though I know it's actually pretty long in the tooth now.
Yeah. I also might be a little biased and a little privileged having a Pro, being like, yeah, this runs games really well. I don't think we need bigger, better, shinier, bloomier
Well,
ray
girl, right?
tracing.
It's like they can't even get the PS5 Pro to an affordable place. Like, what are you all fucking talking about, PS6?
Yeah.
All right. And then we also have an interesting report, and this is another one where I feel like there's more and more smoke. Jason Schreier has reported on this over at Bloomberg. John Linneman has reported on it over at Digital Foundry. We are going to be linking the report over at IGN. But basically, the headline they're going with is console is where they want to be. Reports indicate Sony is pulling away from PC for single player PlayStation games. And basically that. There's just been a lot of gossip that Sony, although the PC port initiative has been successful for them in terms of like they have gained traction on PC, the gossip goes that they're sort of shying away from doing modern ports and they want to keep the PlayStation hardware as the place to get modern first-party PlayStation or Sony experiences. Sort of like I think we saw them do with, was it God of War Ragnarok on PlayStation 4 and 5, and they did a PC release of the God of War game before that on Steam at around the similar time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what they're going to be trending toward, rather than I think what a lot of people had been hoping, where we would see, for example, Wolverine get a PC port really fast. And that obviously Schreier is saying he doesn't think Wolverine will ever come to PC. I personally think that stuff like the licensed Marvel games that Sony works on is actually going to be the exception. I think those titles will still come to PC. I think Marvel wants to be on more platforms if they can be.
Yeah.
But I think the Sony stuff, the God of War stuff, that type of stuff, I actually do see this being the case. And I think that in the future, we'll get to a point where Sony PC ports and ports to potentially other platforms aren't happening until the PlayStation is getting the new version. That's kind of my expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any thoughts on any of that?
Something RAM shortages, something people won't be building PCs. Shrug.
Yeah. All right. All of this having been done, all of this having been said, that about wraps it up for our regularly planned portion of this episode. We are now going to divert into our mini discussion on this week's Pokemon Presents, or as we like to call it, Pokemon Presents.
Pokemon presents. Pokemon.
All right, so this past Friday, February 27th, we had a new Pokemon Presents, or Pokemon Presents. This was, of course, the 30th anniversary stream. I think there was a lot of anticipation for this Pokemon Presents this year. Slaggy, going into this one, what were your expectations?
I was expecting Pokemon Sleep GS. No, honestly, I mean, I basically expected an update on most of the areas of the Pokemon franchise and something about the next gen games. So
yeah. Well, how did you feel then when this video started and we got the announcement of the game music collection? It's basically Pokemon hit clips. It's like a little portable music player. It's shaped like an OG Game Boy. It plays songs from cartridges using what it basically like emulating an OG Game Boy sound chip. What did you think starting the stream off with that?
I mean, it's super cute, but why did they think that this needed to be a thing?
Right? My notes for this are what even fucking is this? It's fully fucking useless merch crap. Physical goods waste shit. I want one so bad.
Yeah, it's honestly super cute. Like, kind of useless, but also cute. I really think that they should put out a Pokemon hit clips of Don't Say You Love Me by M to M from the Pokemon the first movie soundtrack.
Oh my god. I thought it would be, what was it,
yeah.
Vitamin C Graduation?
Actually, that was Vacation,
Ah!
featured in Pikachu's Vacation.
Okay, Vitamin C Graduation Friends Forever was a song though, so I wasn't totally
it absolutely was.
Up.
It interpolated the Pokeball's canon.
I don't think I knew that, but that song came out in 99. I think that they used that for our graduation song.
Like, everyone everywhere uses that for their graduation songs.
No.
Okay.
This was on her self-titled album in 99, but she released it as a single in 2000, and I graduated in 2000. So, like, it was a thing that we used this for our song.
Oh, for sure. They should have used Graduation Friends Forever for the finale of Ash and Pikachu at the Pokemon Leaf, but we're getting way off track. This is not Vitamin C cast.
So we also then got a new presentation about Pokemon World Championships and Pokemon XP. It sort of recapped the details on upcoming in-person events here in San Francisco, both the World Championships tournament as well as the fan event taking place from August 28th to 30th. There was not really any new information regarding any of this, however.
I think it's such a missed opportunity to call the fan event PokeCon.
Right. We then got a somewhat mysterious trailer for the Pokemon trading card game. This was about 30th anniversary sets, ? That are releasing later this year. They were just sort of kind of like teasing the future of the card game. I got the impression that they were teasing multiple sets, but I've only seen anyone reporting on an anniversary set. So I'm not even sure what this trailer was even really about.
At first I was like, because they were like, it's the future of the game. I don't remember exactly how they worded it. At first I was like, oh my god, is this, because it was specifically not Pocket. I was like, is this Pokemon trading card game, the RPG, returning? Sadly, no.
Oh, that would have been so nice.
Maybe they're going to do like AR trading cards or something. Like, I don't know.
That'd be cute.
Cool. We enjoyed the Pokemon trading card game.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, then they had a Pokemon Go presentation where they announced that previous event Pokies will be returning. I thought that was exciting for Go players, even though I'm not one.
Same.
We then had a Pokemon Masters trailer showing off a new version of Red using a really neat, like, retro manga shaded style.
cool.
I thought that was a really cool look. They also showed protagonists from Scarlet Violet, so I thought that was cool.
Cool.
I will probably dip back into Masters for a week or two, get these new trainers, and then dip out for a year. Let's see, Pokemon Cafe Remix. They're doing a new retrospective event where you'll be able to recruit starters across generations. And they're also going to have a new line of anniversary cosmetics. For Pokemon Sleep, I know that's an exciting one for you. They added the Mew missions on Friday night, and they teased Latias and Latios. So are you going to, have you been Pokemon sleeping?
I mean, Pokemon Sleep, I'm just trolling. But honestly, like, maybe I should get Pokemon Sleep.
It's so funny because right now we both talk about Pokemon Sleep as a joke, but watch by next week, we're dedicated Pokemon Sleep heads.
Pokemon Sleepcast.
Yep. Let's see. We then got a little focus on Pokemon Unite. This is, of course, the Switch and mobile MOBA set in the Pokemon fiction. They announced the next 6 playable characters. The first is, of course, the old Kanto leg and dairy birds. This is, of course, Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres. And they're also adding the Johto starters, Meganium, Feraligatr, and Typhlosion. I have to be honest, what I saw was looking pretty good. I often consider going back to Pokemon Unite, and honestly, I thought about it again watching this, even though I
Well,
know I wouldn't be happy. I know this would
right?
be a mess, but I kind of want to all the
Well, as
same,
soon as I saw Articuno, I texted you. I'm like, so you're going back to Unite, huh?
right? Oh, you had mentioned Pokemon, the trading card game Pocket. We actually got a new trailer for the Paldean Wonders set. This is a set based on a Scarlet Violet. That's exciting.
Oh. Yeah,
Maybe
I just
someone will start checking it.
right. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it's not that I don't like it. It's just I'm just so bad about like checking things daily like that on mobile things.
Yeah. Well, we really start getting to the meat and potatoes announcements here, though, because the next announcement was a presentation on Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness. This is, of course, a classic GameCube game, and it was announced that it will be releasing in March for the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack Plus Classics. This will be the March GameCube Nintendo Classics release. My thing is, in the original announcement trailer for GameCube Classics, they announced Pokemon XD and Pokemon Colosseum. This game is the sequel to Pokemon Colosseum, or like follow up. They're directly connected, and this is the second one. So why is it releasing first?
I mean, valid point, but I'm still excited.
Ah, let's see. We also got, and so it was the announcement, but they had also announced it about a week earlier. This is the Switch eShop release of Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. This was available immediately following the event, although, like noted, it was actually available for pre-order for like 6 days before the event. During the presentation, during the event, they pretty much just showed like the the release trailer and detailed the Pokemon Home connectivity. But there were a couple of news bits that came up about Fire Red and Leaf Green that were worth talking about enough that I kind of want to sidebar them here and just talk specifically about this release. The first one, and this is one I'm personally really excited about,
Yeah.
we got the original confirmation of this because basically a speedrunner who is known for speedrunning these games broke through the game in under 3 hours. And what he discovered was that when you finish the Fire Red Leaf Green eShop release, they actually add access to 2 old, very rare in-game events to access legendary Pokemon. These events used to be distributed at in-person events.
Oh my god, like
And
Toys R Us.
yes, exactly, in fact. And so it used to be then that basically most people wouldn't be able to get Deoxys or Ho-Oh/Lugia in this iteration because, you know, they didn't live near a Toys R Us doing this promo at the time that they were doing the promo. Now you get the ticket invitations or invitation tickets to these events placed into your inventory after you beat the Elite Four. So this was a change that they made to the ROM, a pretty meaningful change in my opinion, that in my opinion actually makes it a better game. Adding this post-game content to the game as like de facto post-game now has me really excited to reach that because I've never seen these events because I was not going to Pokemon events at Toys R Us at this time in my life. Let's put it like that. So,
I mean, could you imagine if they did this with something like Pokemon Crystal and the GS ball for Celebi?
oh, dude, right? I mean, I'm really all of these things for all of these retro releases. You could do this and like they could re-release every Pokemon game this way. And if they have this type of hack enabled where at the end of the game you can then do like the weird download promos that they've been doing every generation since the GBA era. Dude, that's exactly what I want out of these types of releases.
Could you imagine Pokemon Stadium and somehow you could get a Surfing Pikachu onto your Pokemon home?
Oh, dude, that's the dream. That's the dream.
But kind of on that note, unless you had something else to say about
I did.
the
I actually
event.
wanted to make
Sorry.
one other note about the event thing.
Sorry,
I
I
had
got
seen
excited.
a lot. I had seen. I'm excited. I had seen a lot of talk in the week leading up to the release of the Switch port of Fire Red Leaf Green, of people talking about how this should have just been a Nintendo Classics GBA app release, about how, Nintendo wants to overcharge us for their single games in a single emulator that isn't even going to run well. And everyone is welcome to have their opinions on all of these things. But for me, presenting this game this way with the events activated actually makes this by far the best presentation Fire Red and Leaf Green have ever received. So for me, this is absolutely a package that's worth $20. Like, when I look at it in a vacuum, I'm playing through it right now. I'll talk about it a little later. I'm having a great time. And this tweak to the events thing is just huge as a Pokemaniac.
Yeah. So kind of touching on like the release of other games or like Virtual Console even coming back. The official FAQ actually talks about like, what about other classic games beyond Pokemon titles? Is this the return of standalone Virtual Console types of offerings? They said, we remain focused on offering classic games through Nintendo Switch Online and Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. And basically that they just thought it would be fun to honor the 30th anniversary of Pokemon like this. So at first, up until literally rereading this article right now, I was like, well, damn, they possibly maybe won't do more releases. But did you notice that they said, what about other classic games beyond Pokemon titles? It didn't say Leaf Green, Fire Red. So that gives me hope that we will get other releases. I would absolutely
Other
buy
Pokemon
them.
titles?
Yes. At the very least, can we please get an upscaled HD Sun and Moon? Like, this would be a great time to bring Pokemon Stars, like, to reality. I just really want to play Sun and Moon.
I want to revisit an upscaled Sun Moon so bad.
Yeah, like, and I know that I could literally play it on my AYN Thor, like, and play it with like upscaling and stuff, instead of just popping in my 3DS carts. But I want to play it upscaled, looking pretty, and transfer my Alolan Pokemon to home.
Yeah. No, I likewise would be a big fan of that. Honestly, with this switch to the events thing, I really went from being kind of begrudging on this to now actively hoping we get eShop ports of all of the past gen games that have the events switched on, because this is such, we were talking about games preservation, and I know this isn't strictly games preservation, but there is an aspect to the accessibility angle that we had been talking about where, making this event content accessible again to people who have been playing these games for, in some cases, 20 years and have never seen this content is just such a neat, cool value add, that it just really makes me hope that they continue this classic Pokemon release initiative.
Yeah.
In fact, to that end, the last of the Pokemon news updates that we have for you before we get back to the Direct in general is word, and this is courtesy of Centro Leaks on Twitter. We will link you to the Kotaku article that is mirroring the Centro Leaks post. According to data miners per Centro Leaks, the Fire Red and Leaf Green emulator that it's using also has references and compatibility for Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, leading many to believe that these may be coming in the future and that some work has already gone into ensuring that some of the cross-game features will work.
I hope so.
Yeah. I think for me, the big thing about that would be Emerald in particular was another game where I think that one had a lot of the events in it. So if that got this type of release and also had those event flags turned on, I think that would be a big win as well. But just in general, I would really like this because I would be happy to revisit more games this way. I'm really having a real blast with Fire Red right now. But I will, as noted, mention more later.
Can you imagine if they took it a step further and, like, let's say they, instead of bringing Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they made like Soul Crystal, and it's basically like in it would basically be like a ROM hack, but like an official one.
I'd be down. I mean, if I'm being honest, there have been a lot of times while playing Fire Red that I have wished that for the 30th anniversary, they had done like a bespoke, like Leaf Green Fire Red Plus or Leaf Green Fire Red 30th anniversary. And it like maybe done a few more modern, like quality of life changes and stuff. But when I look at it as this is a celebration of the series and we're playing the old game, I'm having a good time. And again, the event tag thing is just so fucking cool. What a great change for them to have made.
I can't wait to get my legendary burb or dragon burb.
Heck yeah, indeed. The next thing then that we saw in the Pokemon presence that we were talking about before we got sidetracked by that sidebar was Pokemon Champions. Pokemon Champions is, of course, the new platform for Pokemon competition. The new trailer was largely focused on the platform-agnostic interconnectivity, largely showing people playing from Switch/Switch 2, fighting against people playing on mobile. The game, Pokemon Champions, will be releasing for Switch/Switch 2 in April of 26, and the mobile release will be in later of 26.
I am Pokemon champion at the bit for this.
Yeah. We also got the announcement in Pokemon Legends Z to A that the Mega Garchomp Z free update is going live for DLC owners. We then got the newest Pokemon Pokopia trailer. Of course, it was a little light on real like meat and data, but that's not a shock. This game releases next week. I think most of us who are going to be getting in on this know we're going to be getting in on it or not. The big thing I wanted to point out that they focused on in this trailer was DJ Rotom, who is perhaps the anthropomorphic DJ whom I love most since DJ Roomba.
My thing is, like, if they made that little Pokemon hit clips thing, why did they not make a DJ Rotom CD player? Like, come on, another missed opportunity. I would have bought one.
I would absolutely buy a stereo that was designed to look like DJ Rotom. You're absolutely right.
Big same. I am a fan of any Rotom form, so love.
We also got to look at some of the Pokopia multiplayer modes. It looked like they maybe had some of like the prop hunting stuff going on. It looks like it's a good time. I'll definitely be checking it out, even though I'm typically more into the like persistent survival type experiences when it comes to these kinds of builder games. But still, I'll definitely be checking out the various multiplayer modes.
Hell yeah. And that was it. There were no other announcements or reveals. Yeah.
No. Last but certainly not least was the big reveal. This was, of course, the trailer that confirmed a lot of the leaks that we've talked about in previous months here on the show. This was the announcement of the 2027 Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive Pokemon Winds and Waves. Both of those details that I just noted had been rumored beforehand. Both had been controversial and still are a little controversial. Before we get to the other exciting thing, I want to ask you, Slaggy, how do you feel about the exclusivity and the release window?
Not surprised at the exclusivity. I kind of expected it. We've already had 2 generations on Switch, so I think that this was expected. I am fine with the 2027 release window because I know that gives it more time to be polished and avoid having technical glitches like Scarlet Violet not being optimized and everything. That said, I wish it was coming sooner because I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I Look, here's my thing. Everybody shit themselves at the technical performance of multiple recent Pokemon games. So I don't really get how you can feel that way and also be shocked that Winds and Waves is going to be a Switch 2 exclusive. When Scarlet Violet was so, frankly, in some ways poorly received due to those elements, there had been a lot of reporting that Pokemon Company was taking that response really seriously, and that, we would see, a more serious technical implementation in the future. This fits right. What we saw here fits right in with that, with what has been long rumored. So likewise, my expectation was on a Switch 2 exclusive. I had been hoping that this was going to be the fall 26 release out of Nintendo,
Same.
and that we would be playing this game this year. That having been said, as I always say, if making a better game is going to take you a little longer, I would rather you take a little longer. So I'll play
Absolutely.
it. I'll play it when it's ready. And like you say, it's honestly kind of comforting that they are taking their time. It makes me feel like another Scarlet Violet launch situation is less likely to occur, which
It makes
is a good
and
thing.
the trailer looked gorgeous. I understand that maybe that wasn't all. I mean, it definitely all wasn't gameplay footage, but like, I hope that this can even further broaden the scale of the game world. Can you imagine a Pokemon world that's like the size of Breath of the Wild Hyrule?
That would be pretty wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Ah, all right. Well, then the other big talking point on Winds and Waves is the starters. We, of course, got to meet our new starters. This is Brout, Pombon, and Gekqua. Brout is a leafy bird. Pombon is a fiery little Pomeranian dog. And Gekqua is a watery little aquatic gecko friend. I do think Pombon is one of the cutest starters I've ever seen in this entire franchise. Brout and Gekqua are both cute, but are also like, girl, why do you look like Rowlet?
And Sobble.
And girl, why do you look like Sobble? Yeah, exactly. And even to that degree, Pombon is kind of like, oh, it's Litten, but it's a dog. But I'm not mad. I love all of these babies. Of these new babies, I already love all three of them. Even though I do think aesthetically, I'm probably Team Pombon. I don't think there's a loser in the bunch for me. What about you?
No, I agree. I've seen some funny memes going around, like Brout as an angry bird. Basically, I see it. But I'm pretty much right exactly there with you. Like, listen, I've only had Pombon for a day and a half, but if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Ah, perfect. That is the most perfect application of that meme.
So I hope that other people online are planning to get Brout and Gekwa, because it sounds like both of us are going to be getting Pombon probably, and I would not be surprised if Sulker also got Pombon.
That's kind of my expectation. All right. Well, all of this having been done and all of this having been said, how did you feel about this year's Pokemon Day Pokemon Presents?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I knew that we weren't going to probably get like a full look at Winds and Waves. I'm sure we will get a Pokemon Presents later in the year about, taking a look at it in depth and like treehouse and stuff. So, I figured that it would only just be building the hype. So, yeah, no, I think anytime we know a new generation is coming, that's very exciting. And even though there were things that are not relevant to me, just good to see the franchise going strong. I think people we talked about this on our Pokemon episode, that people with Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet both kind of trying to push the limit of the Switch. People have been kind of a little salty about Pokemon, I feel, lately. So if going by the amount of people on our Switch friends list who are playing Leaf Green and Fire Red is a sign, I'd say the 30 years to come will be good for Pokemon.
Ah, well, yeah, no, I have had 22 people on my Switch friends list online earlier, and 9 of them were playing this re-release. So
Excellent. I was
yeah,
one of them.
it's a pretty good ratio. I have to think this is doing numbers for them, and hopefully that will lead them to do more because again,
Sun and
as
Moon.
noted, find this agreeable.
Absolutely. You know what I
Are-
find agreeable is finding out what's up.
Yeah, let's start winding down by talking about what's up.
I said, hey, what's going on?
All right, so I have done a lot of gaming over the last 2 weeks.
Ooh,
I've been
good for you.
kind of hot and cold on the gaming front lately. It's all really up in the air as to how the various people who need to be caretaken in the house, I say people, but I guess I mean people and animals, are doing. I had a good amount of time this week, I'm happy to say, so I did get a good amount of gaming in. The first one I want to talk about is actually the Virtual Boy family releases on the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. I mainly played Wario Land, Red Alarm, Tolero Boxer, and Galactic Pinball. WarioWare, Tolero Boxer, and Galactic Pinball for me are like my core Virtual Boy games. Red Alarm is one where I actually only got the cartridge of Red Alarm during the first Game Boy era. So like after one of our episodes, and I was talking with a friend of the show, Fox Van Allen. This obviously would have been some 12 years ago. And then I went to that little store at the Fremont Mall that you and I used to go to, and they had a Virtual Boy game there, and it was Red Alarm. So I bought it. And that was how I got a Red Alarm cartridge. And so I played it on a real Virtual Boy hardware in the last 10 years because I still have working Virtual Boy hardware. That's important, however, because when I say this, for me, playing games on the Virtual Boy versus playing them on the NSO app in the Virtual Boy attachment is virtually the exact same user experience.
Wow.
I was having some muscle memory issues because the Switch Pro controller is just not shaped like a Virtual Boy controller. But otherwise, I think this is the ideal way for these games to be presented. I am really shaken and shooketh and shockened by just how perfect these games are presented from a gameplay and experience perspective. I do think it's absolute bullshit that, this is a $100 plastic accessory that is also reliant on having a live NSO subscription. That double dip is kind of bullshit. Like having the accessory should just get you the games. But looking at the experience on offer and the accessory they sell and like how the actual experience is, I cannot imagine it being implemented better. I am shocked and I am delighted and I am really eager for them to continue adding games to the service.
Awesome. I'm surprised that they don't have a controller available though.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised that the accessory didn't come with a controller given how they've been about replica controllers. But, I guess in the modern day, they got to save the money where you can.
Yep.
What about you?
So I checked out the Disney Afternoon Collection Switch 2 release that just came out at the end of last week. I had not played the Disney Afternoon Collection since it originally came out. I think I had it on Xbox. And so it was fun to revisit. It wasn't my first time since childhood revisiting them, but my first time in a couple of years. And I kind of forgot that those NES games were harder than I remember, TBH. It might just be that I'm a little out of practice. For example, DuckTales, obviously legendary, classic, amazing, iconic, but I realized that and it also could have also been the same thing as you, playing it on a Switch controller. I was trying to figure out the pogo jump. I was like, why do I not have the muscle memory for that? So that was kind of throwing me off. Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, honestly, as I was revisiting these, I don't know if I would have said it at the time because it was DuckTales was the Disney afternoon game. But honestly, those Chip 'n Dale games might be actually my favorites. They're just really fun. Darkwing Duck, kind of tough. I definitely remember I was talking about it, like, oh, it was kind of Mega Man adjacent, right? And playing, I didn't play a lot of it. I was dipping into it, and I was like, yeah, actually, I would say, it's not a one-to-one correlation, but, definitely Mega Man vibes. This was my first experience with Goof Troop. That's a weird game. Not what I mean, obviously I know about it, but like actually sitting down and playing it, I'm like, okay, that's weird. It's very puzzly, almost reminiscent of like a Adventures of Lolo game, right? Like, Bonkers is another one I had obviously not played back then, and honestly, I didn't play a lot of it, but it seems kind of like a competent little platformer. Almost reminded me of Bubsy, but not as jank as Bubsy. I will say, though, all cats are bobcats. If you know, you know. And Tailspin is still bad. What else have you been playing?
You got me, girl. I'll do a quick one just to get it out of the way. This is Marvel Rivals and my update for the week. With a little more time with Elsa Bloodstone from last time, I actually do see that she is kind of game-breakingly OP right now. But I still find fighting against her super fun in the 18v18 mode. Her ult can clear a whole group of people really easily, but it has a really cool mechanic that you can fight against it. So it's just fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm really still enjoying the game. My husband and I play a couple of days a week, and we're still putting the time in.
Excellent.
So, having a good time. Yeah. What about you? What else are you playing?
All right, so I know that you'll be talking about this as well, but just because I did not play a lot in the past 2 weeks, I've had a lot of IRL stuff keeping me busy. But I did pick up Mario Tennis Fever. It had really positive word of mouth, including from yourself. And I was like, I really enjoyed Mario Golf Super Rush. I had actually been a latecomer to these Camelot games. And, like, the mechanics seem really solid, easy to pick up, but I decided to start with the adventure mode, and I'm a little underwhelmed. I really actually enjoyed the Super Rush story mode a lot. You got to play as a me and go through the story and go through all the different courses. So I haven't been able to put a lot of time in because I was focusing on other stuff, but I think it'll be good to have kind of as like an anytime game, like pick it up, play a couple matches. I think playing it with others is going to be the most fun. Honestly, the timing of the release is probably not the most ideal, especially with Pokopia coming soon, like literally this week. And I'm sure that I will enjoy it a lot when I spend more time with it, but this is one where I maybe should have followed my New Year's gaming resolution of no mo FOMO and waited until it went on sale. Again, not that I'm like saying anything about the quality, and I'm sure that I'm going to have a good time with it, but I kind of was like, I kind of just did not really follow my no mo FOMO. So
yeah, well, I'll talk about my experiences with Mario Tennis, because the way that you framed yours actually gives me a really interesting angle. I actually did the gameplay sort of out of order, so to speak. Before doing the single player mode, I actually started doing one of the like Trials Cups. And I finished the Trials Cups. You basically have like 10 challenges where you have like gimmick tennis matches. And if you do all 10 of them without dying or failing more than 3 times, you get a character unlock. And I was like, okay, I want a character unlock. Sure, I'll start with this. I was able to complete it, although I did lose all 3 of my lives. So if I had lost one more, I wouldn't have gotten my character unlock. I had a blast. I really enjoyed like the core gameplay while doing the Trials Cup so much. I found the controls to be like a real standout, walking a real tightrope between like requiring timing and precision, but also allowing for like player looseness. That for me is like really one of like the hardest things for a tennis game to get right, is like how demanding are you going to be of your players, like for depth perception and positioning and like your timing. And I really find Mario Tennis Fever to be loose in a very, very good way. The irony is that I played the single player campaign after doing some of the challenge content. And I think that if I had started with the single player, I probably wouldn't have finished it. The thing is, the single player game, it has you playing as like a baby, like literally baby Mario. And it starts you out playing like a very low powered version of the tennis mechanics that are in the game. The single player campaign is in its entirety just a tutorial. It is a tutorial with very little real game content in terms of like, oh, I can play this however I want. I'm free to like experience the game and party or whatever. Instead, it is very do X, do Y, do Z, do A, do B, do C. And it's kind of cute in the sense that it's done in the style of the older Game Boy era RPGs. But ultimately, it's actually, I think, very shallow. You're only doing the RPG stuff to basically restore Baby Mario to the control style of just regularly playing the game. Mm-hmm. So, and so you're talking about, you know, kind of bouncing off it and you've played the single player. I would recommend playing one of the other modes because it plays a lot faster and a lot more interesting when you're not playing the early Baby Mario stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, babies learning how to jump. Babies learning how to hit.
It's aesthetically cute and pleasant, but mechanically it's kind of unfulfilling in my opinion. I really got a lot more out of my time in my first day playing the Trials Cup than I did for the next couple days slogging through the single player campaign, funny enough.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm back to, you know, doing the challenges and playing online, and I'm having a much better time with it than I was doing the single player campaign. And, you know, it's kind of funny because a lot of the reviews of the game that I've read have basically said the same thing. Like the campaign or whatever is kind of the low point and everything else in the game is better than that.
Oh, good.
Excellent. What else you got for us?
Well, the last thing that I have been playing is Pokemon Fire Red. It honestly has been so comforting to revisit Kanto right now. Something about being in a familiar world that you just know so well that you don't even have to think about like how to get around. It's just very soothing in these trying times that we live in. You know, I remember we did Game Buoy episode 104, which was about revisiting Kanto in 2016 when they did the 3DS Virtual Console releases. And I remember at the time, I mean, my recollection is that like we were like, ooh, these are a little bit of a slog to get through. I didn't get a chance to re-listen to it, but that was my recollection. Thankfully, I feel like going with Fire Red Leaf Green, like I think that I'm just able to connect with it more. I just really love the aesthetic of the GBA era too. You know, it's very SNES. And yeah, like I just thought it was the right choice. I picked Charmander. Charizard's the box art mascot, so it just felt right, but also because it unlocks my boy Suicune in the post game. Sorry for spoilers for a 20-year-old game. So I basically just got to Cerulean City. I'm not in a huge rush. Like, literally, I played this game in some form dozens of times. Despite not being in a rush, I accidentally made it to the end of Mount Moon without fully exploring it. Like, I didn't end up catching a Clefairy. And then there was the route between Mount Moon and Cerulean that, like, once you hop down the ledges, you can't go back. So I was like, oh, damn, that's a free experience that I missed out on. So, yeah, even though I'm kind of like, damn it, like, I'm still really just enjoying being in Kanto, honestly. Like, I am spending a lot of time grinding before I go to Nugget Bridge, Bill's house, and Misty's gym. Like, I definitely realized that experience share and how, like, you get experience for catching Pokemon. That's really spoiled me, and I'm sure spoiled many of us. But it hasn't seemed like a slog. Like, I feel like I'm investing in raising my monsters. And honestly, I feel like grinding is not really a thing that we see a lot in RPGs. And although in some cases, like, Dragon Quest, like, that wasn't really appealing to me, like, it made me want to play, like, some of the pixel remasters and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, like, I don't mind grinding if it's a world and a presentation I vibe with. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that, I sometimes when I'm replaying a Pokemon game, like, I know which Pokemon are in the game, and I'm like, oh, well, on this playthrough, I'm going to have this team, and, I'm very, like, pre-planned about it, but, like, I'm really just trying to go based on vibes right now. So sometimes in the past, a Pokemon like Weedle, for example, I might have just caught a Weedle and put it in my box. I ended up evolving it into Beedrill. It was on my team up until Mount Moonish time. And like, I usually get a Pidgey. I've been raising a Spearow this time. I have a Mankey. I've never really had a Mankey on my team, but he's been a really reliable little guy. A very predictable one is Pikachu, though. And I also got the 500 Pokédollar Magikarp. I hadn't done that in a long time, but having to switch out Pokemon to level him is definitely a test of patience. So my current team is Charmeleon, Mankey, Spearow, Pikachu, Magikarp, and a Geodude. I don't know how I'll evolve him to Golem because I have no friends to trade with, and it's only local only. Although I'm not pre-planning a team, I'm kind of like, ooh, an Executor and a Rhydon could be fun. I've really not had those on my team. But yeah, I'm really excited to be in Kanto. I'm going to probably play more. I'm going to definitely play more tonight after we stop recording. But I'm really excited for the post-game stuff with, like, the Sevi Isles. And as you said, the event stuff. Like, I haven't done the Sevi Isles stuff in so long, since, like, literally the GBA games. So I don't remember a lot. It'll be exciting to revisit. And that is my What's Up.
Yeah, I'm likewise really having a blast revisiting Fire Red. I'm actually finding it to be a little bit harder than I've become used to, as you also had sort of noted. I actually lost to Gary in my first fight. LOL.
Oh no. Wait, you mean like in Professor Oak's lab?
Yes.
Oh.
My first two tackles both missed. And so,
oh shit.
Yeah, so it just, the Gary's cumulative damage was just higher than mine because of the two misses.
What a beehole.
Well, yeah, so that's what I named my Gary. One other thing that we didn't talk about, this is another change to Fire Red. They have integrated the Switch console's profanity filter into the various naming prompts.
Oh, yeah.
So you can no longer name Gary Asshead, which is a really popular one. I had named my Pikachu Fuck You to Chew, and it got auto-renamed to just Pikachu. We had a Vulpix that we tried to name Vulpix with 3 X's because it's, like, sexy, and that wasn't allowed.
Wow.
Yeah, even a triple X. So, like, come on, guys, that's a little much. Giving Pokemon funny names is literally one of the highlights of these games for some of us. And since the other mainline recent games haven't done this, I'm kind of bummed that they didn't for this one. I really hope this isn't a sign of things to come. So anyway, I've been really aggressively grinding. I haven't revisited this version in a really long while. I didn't finish it when I was playing it on 3DS, I don't think, back in the day. So it's been a real delight to just see this world and, have those, playing Gen 1 on Super Game Boy type vibes, because it really does very feel like that. I'm just about to get the 3rd badge. I'm going to do that fight. In fact, I'm literally saved right outside the electric gym. So I'll fight
Surge.
Yep,
Daddy.
I'll fight Surge as soon as we're done recording. Other than that, I guess I will just real quick. I also played some One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. I noted last week that we had finally watched One Piece Film Red. They had done a DLC pack for One Piece Film Red. I downloaded it, but I didn't play Uta, the character from the movie, because I didn't want to like see her moves or whatever. But now that I've seen the movie, I did, and she's really OP. But she's really cool to watch. Like she has like very flashy moves that are inspired by the movie.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just good stuff. And then probably the biggest part of my gaming week was Animal Crossing. I've integrated it into my daily routine. I think I've noted that. So every day, I get my hour or two in of Animal Crossing. My fresh town that I started last month is now a 5-star town.
Ooh.
I have finished the hotel and the Happy Home Paradise content, both of which I really enjoyed. Happy Home Paradise gives you a DJ KK slider show at the end.
Yes.
It was just so cute. The whole little island rave, basically. The hotel was fun because at the end of the hotel, you get the ability to buy classic Nintendo consoles.
Yes.
Play some classic Nintendo games through them in the style of the older Animal Crossings. So now my goals are really just focused on continuing theming and designing my island and generating resources. I have finished developing Harv's Island, and I've done all of the storage expansions.
Damn, girl. I don't even have all the storage expansions, and my island's 6 years old.
Yeah, I will say, like, I'm at the point where I have done all my stated goals. Like, everything I was planning to do before Pokopia comes out, I have done. And I'm glad, because I wouldn't want to have to be splitting my time between Anicross and Pokopia. So once Pokopia comes out, I'll probably drop Anicross to like maintenance logging in maybe 2 or 3 times a week. But that's all right. I've put a fair amount of time in over the last month, and if I deprioritize that for a little while, that's okay. I am playing these games. They are not playing me, all right?
Exactly. But I'm just excited that you're having such a positive experience with it. I know you kind of dipped out fast back in the day.
Well, but at this point, I've played it all the way through twice, so I've definitely gotten my money's worth and then some.
For sure. I am excited whenever you're ready to unveil your island to come see it, because I'm sure it'll be a great time.
Absolutely. All right, all of this having been done, all of this having been said, it's time for the exit lude. You want to get us going?
All right. Our social links question of the week was, this week we're pivoting from our plans in order to talk about gaming current events, including this week's Pokemon Presents, which had many of us abuzz. What did you think about the announcements? Was there anything you were hoping to see that wasn't featured? Rob Roberts said, sure, it's a bummer Gen 10 is another year out, but the fact that it's on Switch 2 only has me hopeful it will be a much smoother experience from the start, like the experience of Scarlet Violet on Switch 2. In the meantime, I'm looking forward to Pokopia and my continued Pokemon Go addiction. Team Angry Bird.
Yes.
Lokio LR said the leaks were true.
Yeah, as we noted, yeah.
And what we didn't touch on is the implications. That means if those leaks were true, then, oh boy.
I'll be honest, I do want to have these conversations in such a way that people who want to stay leak-free can do so. So we talked about the leak when we talked about the leak, and if you want to hear what that means, you should go to our previous episodes over at GameBuoy.org.
GameBuoy.org.
And take a look at that.
And then in response to Rob Roberts, we had Mike Deft saying, heck, from the trailer, it already looks way better than Scarlet Violet ever did. And finally...
Which, I would agree with as a statement.
For sure. No, I also, what I didn't mention is I love the Tropical Pikachus. I think Nintendo of America even has given them names like Mr. Windy Chew or something. I would have to go find it. But last but not least, we have Sulker saying, honestly, such a good presence this time. Got me really excited for Pokopia and Wind and Waves. End up dipping into Pokemon Leaf Green because of the excitement it built up. Excellent. Thank you so much for your answers to our questions of the week.
Mr. Windy Chew and Miss Wavy Chew.
Yes! Thank you so much for your response to our question of the week. We love your feedback. We love your subscriptions, ratings, and reviews. you can find us on various social media mediums. We are on Blue Sky at @gamebuoy.org with an actual dot.
At gamebuoy.org with an actual dot.
Mastodon at @gamebuoy @mstdn.games.
Mastodon at gamebuoy @mstdn.games.
And you can email us at gamebuoy.org@gmail.com with the .org spelled DOTORG.
Gamebuoy.org@gmail.com with the .org spelled DOTORG.
And our home base is gamebuoy.org with an actual dot.
And our home base is gamebuoy.org with an actual dot.
GameBuoy.org, of course, is the home to Game Buoy since 2012 and has all the episodes since 2012. And, of course, if there's anywhere else that we should be, that we are not, where podcasts should be, or social medias should media, please let us know. But we are not going back to the hell site, sorry.
Not gonna do it.
And in the year 2026, that can mean many things. But you know the one we're talking about. But we're talking about some friends of Buoy that you should go support.
If you're friends with Buoy, then you're friends with me. If you're down with Buoy, then you're down with me.
All right, I'd be remiss not to mention OLR 2DX, where every geek has a voice, our friends and inspirations. Please join us in looking forward to the new OLR 2DX Odyssey. I'd also like to point you in the direction of Aftermath. In their own words, Aftermath is an independent, worker-owned website about video games, other media, and internet culture. In my words, they're the audience-supported, hint hint, site that many of our faves have landed at. We cite them all the damn time, and we strongly encourage you to check them out, as well as to support them if you like what they do. I'd also like to point you in the direction of Game Mechanics, where they kick the tires and run diagnostics on tabletop experiences. Hosts Logan Jenkins and friend of the show Greg Leatherman have been playing games for decades and have designed and released several games themselves. Please check them out. And last but never ever ever least, Walloping Web Snappers, a Spider-Man podcast. Doug and Derek dive into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made, from the swingin' 60s through the rockin' 90s, to spectacular, ultimate, and beyond. Slaggy, who are your friends of Buoy?
Mechanics really kick tires.
Yes, they do.
That's kind of hot. Mechanics are hot.
Yeah.
You know what else is hot? The Bobby Blackwolf Show, a legendary weekly radio show on the internet and podcast discussing the latest news in gaming, as well as sometimes reminiscing about gaming's history. Of course, Bobby is one of the co-founders of the Voice of Geeks Network, of which we are proud to be members. And it's been so cool to see Bobby be involved in things like Awesome Games Done Quick, Dragon Con, and just really kind of have these really cool opportunities. So good for you, Bobby. We also would like to shout you out to the Nintendo Pow Block podcast, a dive into the week that was in the world of Nintendo. Shout out to Eddie V if you're listening. Longtime friend of the show. I'd also like to point you in the direction of another longtime friend of the show, Standard Issue Computing, Blue Sky account, and a blog for retro and modern computer games, hardware, software, and history. I'd also like to point you in the direction of one of my favorite Blue Sky accounts, Sausage Retro Bytes, for bites of vintage gaming, including magazine scans and photographs, and sometimes some vintage anime stuff too. Love it. Over at Defunct Games, you can find modern video game reviews, exciting trivia competitions, and old-school magazine analysis. And on Thomas Game Docs on YouTube, each video covers a different aspect of video game history, such as game development and sound design for beloved Nintendo franchises, and why is Link so hot. Also, speaking of Link being hot, our wonderful music was done by the late great Zelda Reorchestrated, which is the project that reorchestrated beautiful Zelda music and gorgeous symphonic sound. Thankfully, the legend continues in the form of ZREO Second Quest. Go check them out and show your support at ZREOSQ.com. And if you are looking for some talk therapy, try BetterHelp. No, I'm just kidding, but therapy's great. So I would be remiss not to shout out my hot robot boyfriend Craig and his evil twin Giark, our robotic recording engineers. They make Game Buoy possible in the modern era, so definitely check out Craig and Giark if you have disco recording needs.
They're the best kind of recording needs. All right, in the coming days, we'll be back at you in 2 weeks with a fun episode we have in mind, taking a look at housing/interior design as a game mechanic. We're still working on it. Hopefully, you're still looking forward to it. So please continue looking forward to that. But until then, keep gaming,
Keep gaming.
keep thinking,
Keep thinking.
stay safe,
Stay safe.
stay strong,
Stay strong.
and see you, Space Cowboy.
Mushroom Samba. My God, the Island Birthing Center.
Oh my
Okay,
god, right?
I was expecting it to be like weird, but this is actually really sweet.
No, it's actually like legitimately like what a tasteful little like or not emergency, but like urgent care type space.
Yeah. Aw.
Great episode. I think it's going to edit down well, and we went a little long in the tooth, but I think it'll be under 3 hours, so I'm happy.
Excellent. Okay. G or something.
Yeah.
Now recording.
Hey, Daddy. Disgusting.
What the fuck?
What you got for us, Gossip Girl?
Go piss, girl.
Sorry, I didn't even give you a chance to say what you thought of the...
It's all good, girl.
So I noticed that recently, and I don't know if it's just from show roles being copied from other show roles or whatever, but it's been a while since you've said, welcome once again, our lovely and beautiful listener, to another episode of the GameBuoy.org video game podcast. It's because it's a...
All right, very good. I'm going to start attacking from Pokemon Presence.
Delibird? Hello? I haven't heard anything for 5 minutes. Make sure to stop the recording if you are done. If you are taking a break, disregard this message. If you are pooping, don't forget to flush.
I'm back.
Ah, did you hear me say that?
No.
Oh my God, I was literally reading Craig's message, and then you'll hear it. You'll hear it.
All right.